Chapter 99. Without a doubt, these were the handiwork of the mysterious head of Treasure Pavilion. Chu Liyue became increasingly curious. She wondered who this person was and why he did so many things for her. This was definitely not something that could be exchanged for a hunting grounds title deed. She had previously probed Yan Gu to meet the head of Treasure Pavilion, but Yan Gu tactfully declined. He said that the head of Treasure Pavilion was rarely in the imperial capital, and it was difficult even for him to meet him. If Chu Liyue really wanted to meet him, she would have to wait. Chu Liyue was rather open-minded. Since the other party had sent these treasures over, she would just take them. When the other party wanted to meet her, she would naturally meet him. At that time they could talk about other things. Moreover, she liked these things a lot. It would be a waste not to take them. Bai Qin glanced at the deflated Zhou Xian and the others and laughed loudly. "Let's go. I'll take you to see your residence now." Chu Liyue followed Bai Qin into the academy. Zhou Xian and the others followed behind with the items, looking like her servants. Their group attracted a lot of attention along the way. Although many people had seen Chu Liyue when she participated in the midterm examination, most of them were from the same batch. The students from the two batches before her were also very familiar with Chu Liyue's name. Now that she had finally arrived, they naturally wanted to take a closer look and see what kind of person she was. However, with Bai Qin around, no one tactfully came up to find trouble. After entering the academy, Chu Liyue quickly saw many houses. These houses were all standalone courtyards, and they were separated by a certain distance from each other. The academy occupies a large area and there aren't many students, so every student has their own house. This way, even if they don't attend classes on weekdays, they can cultivate in peace in their own place. Bai Qin explained to Chu Liyue as he walked. Although the arena and library are shared in the academy, the territories of martial artists, Xian cultivators and celestial physician are separated due to different cultivation methods. The area we just passed is the territory of martial artists. After crossing this Shuangqing River, it will be the territory of us mystic cultivators. Chu Liyue looked ahead and saw a clear river meandering past with a 7-hole stone bridge over it. On the other side of the river, there were also some individual courtyards, but they were obviously much larger than the ones he had seen earlier. "Looks like the students' residences are different," Chu Liyue muttered. Of course. The conditions of us Xian masters are much better than those of martial artists." Bai Qin smiled proudly. "This courtyard is at least twice as big as the one over there." Chu Liyue nodded in understanding. On the one hand, there were very few mystic cultivators, and on the other hand, mystic cultivators had a higher status than martial artists, so it was normal for there to be such a difference. "Yes, that courtyard is your residence." Bai Qin pointed at a courtyard by the river in the distance. "That location is very close to Juyou Tower and the library. It's very convenient." Chu Liyue felt warmth in his heart. "Thank you, Teacher Bai Qin." "You don't have to thank me. Elder Sun specially instructed me to do this. It's rare for you to be so talented as a martial artist and a mystic cultivator, so it's normal for you to receive such treatment. After all, the teachers also hope that you can become truly powerful." Bai Chen's expression became much more serious. Chu Liyue could tell that he meant what he said. Although Bai Qin had a bad temper, he didn't have any bad intentions. As a teacher, he also did his job well. After arriving at the courtyard, Chu Liyue could tell at a glance that this place had been meticulously cleaned, so he was naturally even more satisfied. Zhou Xian and the others felt even more uncomfortable when they saw this. They put down their things and left angrily. Chu Liyue didn't mind. She didn't need to worry about these people. Bai Qin then told her some things to take note of, and Chu Liyue noted them down one by one. "This is your nameplate and uniform. When you're done tidying up here, make a trip to Peach Garden when you're free. That's where the teachers usually handle their daily affairs. Although you've already chosen to cultivate as a mystic cultivator, you haven't chosen a teacher yet. Once you've made your choice, go to Peach Garden to become a disciple and register. Then you can officially start cultivating." Chu Liyue thought for a moment and still asked, "Teacher Bai Qin, do I have to choose this teacher?" Digression. Actually, I don't know when it will be published in February. **** Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from LoveNet. Chapter 100. Bai Qin looked at her strangely. Of course. Since you've entered the academy to cultivate, how can you not have a teacher? Especially Xian masters, you need a teacher's careful guidance. Otherwise you will definitely take many detours. Why you don't want to choose a teacher? Chu Luiyue wanted to say something but hesitated. Seeing his surprised expression, she shook her head with a smile. That's not it. Liu was just asking casually. There are many teachers in the academy, but I just came and don't know much about them, so I haven't thought about it yet. Bai Chen didn't suspect anything and laughed. I see. Actually, you don't have to be so conflicted. It won't be too late to make a choice after you reach Peach Garden and meet all the teachers. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief. Then Liu can be at ease. Bai Chen winked. Actually, when you enter the academy, most students are like you and don't know much about the teachers. However, they don't have as much choice as you do. Your midterm assessment results were first in the warrior assessment and second in the Xian master assessment. Now all the teachers want to take you in as a disciple. It's all up to you. This kind of treatment isn't something that everyone can get. Only a rare genius like Chu Luiyue could make those fellows restless. Hey, then I'll pack up and go later. Chu Luiyue's courtyard was a small 2-story building. It was clean and tidy. She looked around and realized that everything she needed was already prepared. There was no need for her to bring anything. However, she still put away the things she brought and changed into the academy uniform. She pinned a nameplate on her left chest before leaving for Peach Garden. Bai Chen had already told her how to get to Peach Garden, so Chu Luiyue had a smooth journey. From afar, Chu Luiyue saw a simple and spacious courtyard. Just as she stood in front of the door, Chu Luiyue felt a heavy pressure coming at her. She narrowed her eyes, but she didn't move. She just stood there. Whoosh. Just as that biting cold aura was about to reach her, it suddenly dissipated. The wind ruffled the hair on her forehead. Chu Luiyue's expression did not change. He cupped his fists and saluted. Student Chu Luiyue greets teachers. A moment later, a warm laugh was heard. I already said that this girl is really capable, yet you still insist on personally trying. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by this girl? It was Sun Zhongyan's voice. Girl, come in. As soon as she finished speaking, the invisible force in front of Chu Luiyue completely dissipated with the wind, and she stepped in. Contrary to its name, there were no trees or flowers in the peach garden. There were only some rough stones that were placed messily. However, Chu Luiyue could tell at a glance that these stones were arranged into a special Xian formation. With this place as the center, the power of the Xian formation spread out in all directions. Once activated, the power of this Xian formation could not be underestimated. Chu Luiyue quickly retracted his gaze. Sun Zhongyan was sitting on a stone bench in the courtyard playing chess. When he saw her, he put down the chess piece in his hand. Chu Luiyue noticed that the chessboard was exactly the same as the one she used to take the Tianlu Academy exam. However, the chessboard today was filled with scattered chess pieces. It was obviously many times more complicated than the one she used to play that day. Girl, have you chosen your teacher? Chu Luiyue hesitated for a moment and shook her head. Teacher Bai Chen asked me to visit all the teachers first. As she spoke, she looked around and realized that there was no one else in the courtyard other than Elder Sunday. There were a few rather obscure auras in the room. Elder Sun, the other teachers. Chu Luiyue did not understand. Sun Zhongyan pointed at the chessboard. Everyone wanted to be your teacher, so we had a competition. Now they have all lost. I'm the only one left. He smiled at Chu Luiyue. What do you think of me being your teacher? Chu Luiyue was stunned. If she remembered correctly, Elder Sun seemed to be Si Ting's teacher too. Just as she was hesitating, a gray figure suddenly rushed over from afar. A deep voice exploded in the sky above the peach garden like thunder. I don't agree. Digression. Elder Yi expressed his disapproval. Today at 5 p.m., please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 101. This voice sounded a little familiar. Chu Luiyue was thinking when she saw that figure rushing in front of Sun Zhongyan. His figure was a little stooped and he was wearing a tattered cotton shirt. Who else could it be but Elder Yi? But why was he here? Sun Zhongyan was even more shocked than Chu Luiyue. Uncle Master. Why are you here? Uncle Master? Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. She had long guessed that Elder Ye's identity was not ordinary, but she did not expect him to be Sun Zhongyan's Uncle Master. Wasn't his seniority a little too high? Elder Yi panted and stared at Sun Zhongyan with wide eyes. Sun Zhongyan felt a little guilty under his gaze. Uncle Master, what's wrong? What's wrong? You still dare to ask me what's wrong? As Elder Yi spoke, he actually slapped him. You brat, how dare you snatch someone from your uncle master? You've grown bold. Sun Zhongyan did not dare to retaliate and could only cover his head. Uncle Master. Uncle Master. Why are you hitting me? Even if I ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, I wouldn't dare to snatch someone from you. Seeing Sun Zhongyan, who was highly respected in the academy, being chased and beaten up, Chu Liyue's mood suddenly became a little strange. She coughed and looked away. Uncle Master, if you want to hit me, you have to tell me clearly. Who exactly did I snatch from you? Sun Zhongyan shouted aggrievedly. Uncle Master did not show up all year round. Why did he hit people the moment he came? Elder Yi finally stopped and pointed at Chu Liyue with a huff. The courtyard fell silent for a moment. Chu Liyue keenly sensed that the concealed auras that were previously hidden fluctuated at almost the same time. Clearly, everyone was a little shocked by Elder Ye's words. Sun Zhongyan was stunned for a while. This Uncle Master, you want to take Chu Liyue in as your disciple? But, you're a celestial physician. Chu Liyue's talent as a warrior and a Xian master was indeed indisputable, but as a celestial physician she did not seem to be satisfactory. Sun Zhongyan glanced at Chu Liyue and could not help but persuade her. Uncle Master, did you hear that this girl entered the academy because she passed all 3 examinations? You may not be aware, but she is much more than a celestial physician. And you. For this reason, why hadn't Martial Uncle accepted a single disciple for so many years? There. What do you know? Mr. Yi interrupted him impatiently. Chu Liyue sighed in her heart. She had wanted to choose a teacher in a low-key manner and begin her cultivation in the academy. Now it seemed impossible. She did not expect Elder Yi to have such a relationship with Tianlu Academy. Moreover, he had rushed out at this time. This girl has been my disciple for a long time. You want to snatch her away now? Dream on. Elder Yi was still brooding. He looked at Sun Zhongyan as if he was looking at a thief. He walked to Chu Liyue. Girl, these old fogies are all very bad. You can't be fooled by them. Chu Liyue was speechless. Is it okay for you to be so direct? Elder Yi looked aggrieved as he spoke. Girl, why didn't you tell me you were coming to the academy? Do you really want to find someone else to be your master? Chu Liyue smiled helplessly. Master, you misunderstood. I was in seclusion for a few days. I went to the Chu family to look for you as soon as I came out. Who knew that I could not find you? I asked around and found out that such a big thing had happened. If I had been a little later, wouldn't you have become this bastard's disciple? Sun Zhongyan, who was being scolded, did not care about being aggrieved or defending himself. The conversation between Elder Yi and Chu Liyue contained too much information, and he could not react in time. Chu Liyue paused and did not say anything. If she had known that Elder Yi was from Tianlu Academy, she would not have gone through so much trouble. However, when she thought about how Elder Yi had hurriedly looked for her, she was not completely unaffected. Elder Yi looked at the girl in front of him. Actually, he did not have enough time to dote on her. How could he bear to scold her? His voice softened as he patted Chu Liyue's arm. Luckily I came quickly. You can't do this in the future. Chu Liyue responded with a bright smile. Yes, master. While the master and disciple were overjoyed, Sun Zhongyan and the other teachers in the room were all dumbfounded. Seeing that Elder Yi was about to take her away, Sun Zhongyan finally could not help but step forward and ask, Elder Yi, you really accepted this girl as your disciple? Elder Yi glanced at him. Didn't you hear her call me master? Sun Zhongyan choked. But her talent, As Elder Yi spoke, Chu Liyue gently tugged at the corner of his shirt. Elder Ye's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Chu Liyue and guessed what she was thinking. It seemed like this girl did not want to expose herself. That's right. If she really exposed everything, it would be too eye-catching. Elder Yi coughed. Anyway, she passed the celestial physician exam and we hit it off very well. We have already gone through the ceremony. Whatever you say is useless. He looked like he had made up his mind. Sun Zhongyan felt that it was a pity. Chu Liyue did not have any potential as a celestial physician. Even if she became his disciple, her future was bleak. Master, I'm actually very interested in Xian formations. I came to the academy this time to learn a thing or two. Chu Liuyue's words worried Elder Yi. You really want to be this brat's disciple? Chu Liyue held back her laughter and shook her head. Since I already have a master, it's naturally not good for me to take someone else as my master. This disciple wants to cultivate as a Xian master on her own. Can you agree? On your own. Sun Zhongyan felt that this was unacceptable. Girl, you have to think carefully. If you don't have a teacher to guide you seriously, the path of a Xian master won't be easy. Chu Liyue nodded insistently. Thank you, elder son, but I've already made up my mind. Master, you don't have any objections, right? Elder Yi wanted to say something but stopped. Actually, he had already vaguely guessed that perhaps Chu Liyue really did not need a Xian master teacher. Just like her cultivation as a celestial physician, her realm was unfathomable, and she was more than qualified to be his teacher. Why would Master stop you from doing whatever you want to do? This matter is settled. Elder Yi waved his hand. Bring me the registration list. Very quickly, someone walked out of the room and brought a thick booklet. A few words were written in gold on the cover. Tianlu Academy. Elder Yi placed his hand on the booklet and released it. The pages actually flipped by themselves. Chu Liyue stood at the side and could clearly see the names written on the pages. The students' names were all black and the teachers' names were all red. The booklet flipped to the latest blank page and finally stopped. Elder Ye's expression froze. He stretched out his finger and wrote down a name on the page. Yi Zhiding. A dazzling golden glow shone brightly. His name was actually golden. Very quickly, Chu Liyue saw a line of words appear below his name. Tianlu Academy's 65th Director. Digression. Today, Mujiagang mobile phone users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 102. Elder Yi is the Dean of Tianlu Academy. Chu Liyue looked at him in shock. This old man always wore torn cotton clothes and did not care about his appearance. If she did not see him with her own eyes, she would not have believed his true identity. Chu Liyue could not help but recall the previous few times they met. Elder Yi had shamelessly chased after her to watch her refine demons. Her feelings became even more complicated. After all this time, the person with the most authority in Tianlu Academy was right in front of her. Elder Ye's expression was serious, which was rare for him. His fingers continued moving. Another name appeared on the page of the book. Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue realized that her name was actually red. It was the same color as the teachers in the academy. Then a small line of words appeared below her name. Cultivation, Celestial Physician, Xian Master, Martial Artist. Due to the limitations of their talents, normal students would only cultivate one skill. However, Chu Liyue was different. Elder Yi knew that her talents might be stronger than he had imagined. Thus he simply wrote down all 3 skills for her. This would be much more convenient in the future. When he wrote down the last word, a golden ray of light flew out from Elder Ye's name and entered Chu Liyue's nameplate on her left chest. Every student's nameplate has a trace of their teacher's power. Not only can it be used to identify one's identity, but it can also be used as a trump card in times of danger. Elder Yi explained as he let go of his hand. The page slowly closed on its own and returned to the teacher who had sent the book over. All right. Your name has been registered. From now on you will be my true disciple. Elder Yi looked at Chu Liyue emotionally. He could not hide the excitement in his heart. Even though Chu Liyue had already served him tea previously, only the 2 of them knew about it at that time. Now that both of their names were written on the academy's nameplate, it would be very different. In the future, everyone would know that Chu Liyue was his disciple. Thinking of this, Elder Yi was elated. He had lived for most of his life. Many people had advised him to take in disciples, but he had rejected them all because he found it troublesome. Now there was finally someone who caught his eye, and he was even a genius that was hard to come by in 100 years. All of a sudden he had surpassed everyone else. How could he not be happy? Let's go. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. I have many things to say to you. After finishing his business, Mr. Yi left with Chu Liyue, leaving Sun Zhongyan and the others looking at each other. The peach garden was silent for a long time before a helpless laugh could be heard. To think that we've been fighting for so long. In the end, he's already the dean's student. Yi Lao originally wanted to bring Chu Luiyue to his place, but he suddenly remembered that he had been away for a long time and that his place might not have been cleaned yet. In the end, he followed Chu Luiyue back. Fortunately, at this time, most of the students in the academy had already started their classes or cultivation. On their way back, they didn't meet anyone. As soon as they entered the room, Mr. Yi immediately asked, "Little girl, why didn't you tell me earlier that you wanted to come to the academy? She even had to go through so much trouble to take 3 exams. I heard that you also participated in the midterm assessment a few days ago. Did someone make things difficult for you? Don't hesitate to tell me. I'll definitely help you vent your anger." Chu Luiyue poured him a cup of tea leisurely as she poured him a cup of tea. "Speak slowly. There's no need to rush." Mr. Yi stopped drinking tea and finally had some time to rest. Chu Luiyue briefly told him what happened during this period of time. Mr. Yi had heard some rumors before, but after listening to Chu Luiyue, he finally understood what happened. So many things happened during this period of time. "Little girl, didn't you say that if you ran into any trouble, you could just come to me? As your master, I couldn't help you at all." Mr. Yi was filled with guilt. In his view, Chu Luiyue was still a child. Who knew how many difficulties she had to go against the Chu clan and the crown prince? However, Chu Luiyue smiled nonchalantly and teased him. "At that time, I didn't know your true identity. If I knew, how could I not come to you?" This sentence made Mr. Yi even more embarrassed. It was my negligence. He had a carefree personality and never liked to deal with the school's affairs. He usually left it to Sun Zhongyan and the others. Although he was the dean in name, he had been running around outside all these years. There weren't many people who actually saw him. He often forgot his identity. However, you don't have to worry. Isn't everything fine now? Chu Luiyue comforted. Mr. Yi restrained his expression and shook his head. "Little girl, you might not know this, but the crown prince is narrow-minded and haggles over every detail. Now that you've humiliated him, he definitely won't let it go." Buzz. Before Mr. Yi could finish speaking, a buzzing sound came from outside. The two of them looked outside together but didn't see anything. However, Mr. Ye's expression didn't relax. Instead, his frown deepened. He immediately stood up. "Little girl, I have something to do and will leave first. I'll come to see you another day." With that, his feet moved and his figure quickly disappeared. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction he left and shifted her gaze. Not far away, the majestic Juyo Tower stood quietly. That strange movement just now seemed to be coming from there. However, that movement was very weak. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it. She could sense it because she was very sensitive to the changes in heaven and earth force. Although she hadn't regained the strength of her previous life, her senses were still there. If she remembered correctly, Tianlu Academy seemed to be under Juyo Tower. Knock knock knock. A knock on the door interrupted Chu Luiyue's thoughts. "Who is it?" she asked as she went to open the door. A familiar face appeared outside the door. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. "Si Ting, why are you here?" Si Ting didn't seem to expect her to come so quickly. He was stunned for a moment but quickly recovered. "You've already chosen your teacher?" Chu Luiyue nodded. Si Ting paused but didn't ask her who she had chosen. "There's a meditation class this morning. Mr. Dongfang asked me to come and see if you're ready." "Meditation class?" Chu Luiyue was a little confused. Si Ting explained. "Although most of the Xian master's cultivation is done independently, there are common classes. This class is taught by Mr. Dongfang." Chu Luiyue then understood that Si Ting was here to ask her to go to class. She sized him up and couldn't help but tease him. "Mr. Dongfang actually sent you over for such a small matter?" Si Ting averted his gaze, his handsome face still expressionless. "It's just that I solved the first round first, so I had time to come. If you're ready, come with me." Chu Luiyue didn't ask much and followed him to class. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 103. The meditation class was held at the Autumn Frost Garden. Chu Luiyue followed Si Ting and soon arrived at their destination. Standing outside the door, Si Ting said in a low voice, "Meditation classes are usually used to cultivate one's control of the heaven and earth force." Chu Luiyue nodded. A Xian master's cultivation was limited to these few aspects. The two of them had just reached the door when it opened automatically. A deep middle-aged man's voice sounded. "Come in." Chu Liwei followed Si Ting and entered. It was a very spacious room and a square-faced man was standing at the front. "Greetings, Teacher Dongfeng," Si Ting said. Chu Liwei immediately understood that this person was the meditation class's teacher, Dongfeng Qing. "You guys came quickly." Dongfeng Qing nodded and his gaze quickly landed on Chu Liwei with curiosity. "You are Chu Liwei?" Chu Liwei bowed. "Greetings, Teacher Dongfeng." Dongfeng Qing's gaze lingered on her nameplate for a moment. He actually wanted to ask her who her teacher was, but with so many students around, it was not appropriate for him to ask. He raised his hand and pointed. "You can sit next to Si Ting first." Chu Liwei looked in the direction he was pointing. There were dozens of stone tables in the room and a student was sitting on each of them. There was a chessboard on the table in front of each of them. Almost all of the students were staring at the chessboard seriously, thinking hard. Even when they heard the two of them enter, they only looked up and quickly lowered their heads to continue studying the Xian array on the chessboard. The two tables in the middle were empty. Obviously one belonged to Si Ting and the other to her. When she walked closer she saw a clear 2 carved on the table. She looked sideways and saw the 1 carved on Si Ting's table. It seemed like it was arranged according to the midterm assessment ranking. Chu Liwei had just stepped onto the stone table when a chessboard suddenly appeared on the originally empty table in front of her. There was a Xian array on the chessboard. Today's lesson is very simple. As long as you can find the formation cores of these 2 Xian formations, you will pass. Dongfeng Qing looked at Chu Liwei with anticipation. The 3 people who spend the shortest amount of time will be rewarded. He wasn't there during the midterm assessment that day, so he didn't know what exactly happened and how Chu Liwei obtained 2nd place in the Xian cultivator competition. Old Master Sun and the others were exaggerating. They even said that Chu Liwei was as talented as Si Ting. He wanted to see if that was the case. Chu Liwei looked down at the Xian formation in front of him. This level of Xian formation posed no difficulty to her. The moment she saw it, she immediately thought of a way to break it. But of course he couldn't pass it so quickly. Sensing Dongfeng Qing's gaze on him, Chu Liwei knew that he was testing him. She looked at Si Ting and asked in a low voice, sighing, "How long did you take for the first round?" Dongfeng Qing's eyes lit up. Chu Liwei wanted to challenge Si Ting? Si Ting looked at the calm expression on the girl's face and guessed what she was thinking. 1 hour. Chu Liwei nodded thoughtfully. Based on Si Ting's age, it was already very good that he could reach this standard. Then try to be faster for the 2nd round. I might be able to surpass you. Chu Liwei blinked. If Si Ting could pass it faster, she would waste less time. Otherwise, it would be difficult to endure the few hours here. Si Ting looked at the sly look in her eyes and nodded after a moment of silence. "Why, Chu Liwei, are you challenging Si Ting?" A girl's voice suddenly sounded from behind. Chu Liwei turned around and saw that the person who spoke was a girl who looked about 15 or 16 years old. She looked beautiful, and her phoenix eyes were filled with undisguised pride and hostility as she looked at Chu Liwei. Hostility? Chu Liwei frowned slightly. He did not know this girl. Why was she treating her like this? "Gu Mingzhu, why are you so nosy? It's normal that Lu Yu wants to challenge my brother. After all, he came in 2nd place. How can you, who came in 4th place, have the right to speak?" Si Yang, who was sitting behind Chu Liwei, said impatiently. Hearing this name, Chu Liwei immediately knew who this girl was. She was the 2nd daughter of the Gu family, Gu Mingzhu. Because she was the daughter of the 1st wife and was a Xian master, she was very favored in the Gu family. Gu Mingzhu's face turned cold after being rebuked by Si Yang. "I'm just asking. Why are you so protective of her?" Si Yang snorted. "You know very well what you are thinking. If you want to challenge my brother, wait until you come in 2nd place." Gu Mingzhu was so angry that her face turned pale. She gritted her teeth and said, "Who knows how she came in 2nd place? What can someone who became a Xian master be capable of?" The cultivation of a Xian master was very particular. Even if one had good talent, without the correct and patient guidance of a teacher, one would not be able to achieve anything. Chu Liwei had been living a life worse than a servant in the Chu family for the past few years. Now that she was in her teens, her talent as a Xian master was discovered. It was too late. The results from last time must be a coincidence. Si Yang's tone was a little harsh. "But Are you suspecting that elder son and the rest made a mistake? He came in third place. If Gu Mingzhu suspected that Chu Luiwei came in second place, wouldn't that mean that he was not capable enough? Gu Mingzhu did not dare to say anything else. The Xiyang had always been the most mischievous. She could not be bothered to argue with him. Gu Mingzhu looked at Si Ting feeling wronged. However, the handsome young man did not even look at her. It was as if he did not care about what had just happened. Gu Mingzhu bit her lip. She felt even worse. Si Ting was a quiet and introverted person with an indifferent personality. She thought that he had always been like that. Therefore, even though she had been rejected time and time again, she still had a glimmer of hope. However, Chu Liyue's appearance made her feel threatened. Since when had Si Ting ever cared about anyone else? However, when teacher Dongfang mentioned that he wanted to send someone to bring Chu Liyue over, Si Ting actually took the initiative to speak up. Although Si Ting said that he had time to go because he had solved the first round, Gu Mingzhu did not think that way. When Chu Liyue spoke to Si Ting just now, she could clearly feel that Si Ting's attitude towards her was different. This was a woman's intuition. Therefore this made Gu Mingzhu dislike Chu Liyue even more. She placed one hand on the chessboard. Because she was using too much force, her knuckles turned pale. Chu Liyue, do you dare to compete with me? If you lose, you have to give up your second place to me. If I lose, I will give you the dragon string array. How about that? The surrounding people were all shocked and raised their heads to look over. The dragon string array was a legendary 5th level Xian array. Gu Mingzhu was indeed the second young mistress of the Gu family. She was so generous. No one would reject such a prize. However, unexpectedly, Chu Liyue did not look excited at all. Instead, he shook his head and smiled kindly. Let's not. After all, I really don't like to bully others. Chapter 104. How could Gu Mingzhu not understand what Chu Liyue meant? He was obviously looking down on her. She was so angry that she laughed. Chu Liyue, don't tell me you're scared? Chu Liyue shrugged. If you think so, then so be it. Gu Mingzhu choked. She did not expect Chu Liyue to be so stubborn. She raised her voice in defiance. Then I'll add a Greenwood Xian formation. Do you agree or not? The room was in an uproar. Greenwood Xian formation. That was a Xian formation that would not lose to the dragon string formation. Gu Mingzhu was willing to take out 2 level 5 Xian formations just to compete with Chu Liyue. She was really putting in a lot of effort. Chu Liyue finally turned around and looked at her lazily. Really? I'm the second lady of the Gu family. Of course I'm serious. Gu Mingzhu raised her chin. Chu Liyue nodded. She was not a fool. Why would she not take advantage of the other party's initiative? Gu Mingzhu was delighted when she saw that Chu Liyue had finally agreed. However, she was immediately disdainful. She sneered. Looks like you didn't agree just now because the stakes were too small. In other words, Chu Liyue was obviously greedy for money. Chu Liyue smiled and admitted it. It's good that you know. If you want to ask someone to teach you, you should at least show some sincerity. Otherwise, she really did not want to waste her time on this kind of person. Gu Mingzhu was so angry that she was about to explode. However, she suddenly felt someone looking at her. It was Si Ting. Gu Mingzhu suppressed the anger in her heart and returned to her usual cold and arrogant attitude. Then let's use the 2 Xian formations that Mr. Dongfang set up as a competition. Whoever solves them first will win. Gu Mingzhu, how dare you say that? You've been here for almost 2 hours. Chu Liyue just arrived. Aren't you bullying him? Xiang could not stand it anymore. Gu Mingzhu looked at Chu Liyue and sneered. Unraveling a profound formation can easily take several hours. Sometimes it can take a whole day to unravel it. Chu Liyue was late because of himself. Can you blame me? What's more, she had gotten second place previously. She wouldn't be so calculative about this little bit of time, right? Chu Liyue, what do you think? Chu Liyue waved his hand carelessly. I'll let you. His casual attitude annoyed Gu Mingzhu once again. Let's start. After she finished speaking, she lowered her head and once again focused on studying the profound formation on the chessboard in front of her. This time she must win. Chu Liyue retracted his gaze and looked at Si Ting. Si Ting felt inexplicably nervous when he saw her. Chu Liyue smirked. This trouble was obviously caused by Si Ting. However, on account of how Si Ting had helped her before, She did not want to be calculative about this. Si Ting was the first to look away. Chu Liwei raised his brows and looked at the profound formation in front of him. Imperial Palace, Imperial Study. Emperor Zhou leaned against the chair and looked at Rong Jin, who was standing with his hands by his side, expressionlessly. I'll say it one last time. Let's forget about this matter. Don't pursue it anymore. A deep and heavy voice sounded in the empty study room, with the dignity and majesty of a person in a high position. Rong Jin clenched his fists in his sleeves. In actual fact, he had already thought of this answer before he came. However, he really did not understand. Father Zhenjin's injury is really strange. I've always been the one managing the hunting ground, and such a situation has never happened before. Why did something like this happen once Jinbao Pavilion took over? If we don't investigate carefully, how can Zhenjin be at peace? Emperor Zhou looked at him solemnly. Crown Prince, are you blaming me? Rong Jin's heart tightened and he immediately knelt down. I don't dare. Zhenbao Pavilion tried to stop her multiple times, but Zhenjin insisted on going in to hunt high-level fiends. She can only blame herself for this. At the end of the day, I've spoiled her too much. All these years, I've always let her do whatever she wants and I've never punished her. This is what led to today's situation. Emperor Zhou sighed deeply and closed his eyes. How can my heart not hurt when her pearl of essence is broken? I've already sent Chu Ning to lead the Imperial Guards to search for the high-level fiend that injured Zhenjin. The few people who followed Zhenjin and didn't protect her that day have been punished. What else do you want to investigate? The last sentence made Rong Jin's heart skip a beat. Even though Emperor Zhou wasn't looking at him, he felt that his thoughts had been seen through. I just feel that. I've already told you not to have any ideas about Jinbao Pavilion the last time, but it seems like you didn't listen at all. Emperor Zhou opened his eyes tiredly and spoke slowly. Do you want to investigate for Zhenjin or do you want to investigate for yourself? Father. Rong Jin was shocked and instantly felt that Emperor Zhou's eyes were glaring at him like a will-o'-the-wisp, making him tremble in fear. Father, you're wise. I don't have any selfish motives. Emperor Zhou was unmoved. He knew exactly what Rong Jin was thinking and doing. The father-son duo, one sitting and one kneeling, were in a stalemate. The atmosphere in the room gradually became cold and stiff. After a while, Rong Jin finally lowered his head. Father, I just want an answer. What kind of background does Jinbao Pavilion have? Even you are so protective of it. I put in so much effort for that hunting ground, but it was snatched away by them in the blink of an eye. I really can't take it lying down. You're the crown prince. How can a mere hunting ground make you like this? Actually, you care more about your pride as the crown prince, right? Emperor Zhou's words hit the nail on the head, and it made Rong Jin's face turn pale. If they didn't help Chu Liwei, I wouldn't. You were the one who wanted to cancel the marriage agreement. Emperor Zhou shook his head. He knew that Rong Jin wasn't broad-minded enough, but the recent events really disappointed him. If Chu Liwei had displayed his shocking talent back then, the situation today would have been very different. You can go back. Emperor Zhou waved his hands. Rong Jin wanted to say more, but he swallowed his words when he saw Emperor Zhou's expression. Yes. He stood up and left. Just as he reached the door, Emperor Zhou's voice sounded from behind him. I heard that Chu Xianmin from the Chu family hurt her face a few days ago. Go and take a look if you have the time. Rong Jin turned around and an ominous feeling surfaced in his heart. Rumors are spreading like wildfire in the imperial city. Given the current situation, you should accept her as soon as possible. Father Chu Xianmin and I don't. As the crown prince, you should think about what you should do. Yes. Rong Jin returned to Crown Prince Mansion without saying a word, but his face was frighteningly cold. Song Yuan, who had been waiting for a long time, felt his heart skip a beat. He thought to himself that something was amiss and looked down in panic. Rong Jin stood still in front of Song Yuan. Go and tell the Chu family to prepare. I'll accept Chu Xianmin into the mansion in a few days. Song Yuan was dazed. Your Highness, is that a secondary consort's gift? Rong Jin sneered. Secondary consort? Does she even deserve it? Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 105. 3 days later. Crown Prince Mansion will welcome her as a concubine. Song Yuan asked hesitantly. Your Highness, third Chu Missy is the Chu family's legitimate daughter after all. Isn't it inappropriate for her to be a concubine? That's already giving her too much credit. Rong Jin's expression was cold. There was no affection in his eyes at the mention of Chu Xianmin. This series of events had already caused him to lose all face. It was already a huge favor that he was still willing to give Chu Xianmin a place in Crown Prince Mansion. Song Yuan looked at Rong Jin's expression and knew that the matter was settled. There was no turning back, so he did not say anything else. Yes. Rong Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to walk in, he saw that Song Yuan was still standing at the same spot with a strange expression. He could not help but frown. Why are you still standing there? Song Yuan bowed and whispered, Your Highness, Your Highness. The people we sent to investigate Jinbao Pavilion are gone. Rong Jin was shocked and his frown deepened. How is that possible? Those people were all stage 4 warriors. He knew that Jinbao Pavilion was not to be trifled with, so he did not hold back. Who would have thought? Your Highness, those people were just secretly investigating Jinbao Pavilion and they were assassinated one after another. The assassins were very strong and did not leave any traces behind. We can't even find any evidence to prove that they did it. Rong Jin clenched his fists and his voice was almost squeezed out from between his teeth. You mean to say that this time, this consort can only suffer in silence and swallow this anger? Your Highness, I didn't mean that. Song Yuan hurriedly knelt on the ground. Rong Jin closed his eyes and thought for a long time before he sneered. If we can't do it secretly, then we'll do it openly. Song Yuan was worried. Your Highness, didn't His Majesty say that he won't investigate anymore? If you do it openly, I'm afraid it will be difficult to explain to His Majesty. Of course, I won't get involved in this. However, Jinbao Pavilion has been operating in the Imperial City for many years. Who knows if there are any problems with their private accounts? It just so happens that the people from the Ministry of Personnel Affairs have some free time recently. They can investigate all these in the Imperial City. The Chu family. Chu Yan and Lu Yao stared at Song Yuan with their mouths agape. They couldn't believe their ears. Lord Song, you said earlier that the Crown Prince wants Minmin to enter the residence as a concubine. Song Yuan smiled. Yes. His Highness the Crown Prince has always been fond of third Miss Chu and has long wanted to marry her. Both of you know this. Although time was a little tight, the Crown Prince had said that third Miss Chu's injuries had not yet healed. For the sake of her health, everything should be kept simple. But don't worry, although the rules and etiquette are simple, His Highness will definitely not mistreat third Miss Chu. Chu Yan and Lu Yao trembled in anger. Lord Song, no matter what, my Min is still the young miss of the Chu family. Even if she is injured and can't be the official wife, she should at least be the concubine. A mere concubine, isn't that too much? Chu Yan's anger was almost uncontrollable and his tone was a little harsh. The smile on Song Yuan's face did not change, but it became colder. Ah, Lord Chu Yan, don't you know the reason behind this? Third Miss Chu's face was injured and she might not recover for the rest of her life. The Crown Prince's official wife and concubine will have to go to the royal family's ancestral hall to greet their ancestors. Is it appropriate for third Miss Chu to do this? Besides, not only did third Miss Chu hurt her face, but she also hurt the Crown Prince's reputation. Now that the Crown Prince is willing to give her the status of a concubine, he is already very magnanimous. Both of you should discuss this properly and not spoil the Crown Prince's good intentions. Who could not hear the threat in his words? Chu Yan and Lu Yao looked at each other and felt very aggrieved. They only had one daughter, Chu Xianmin. Originally, they hoped that she would be able to marry the Crown Prince and become the Crown Prince's concubine, but it was obviously impossible now. There was no time to prepare anything in 3 days. It was really embarrassing to marry him like this. Who knew how the people in the Imperial City would laugh at her? I'll marry him. Just as the few of them were in a deadlock, a woman's voice suddenly came from outside the door. It was Chu Xianmin. At this moment she was wearing a veil that covered most of her hair and face, only revealing a pair of eyes. However, her eyes were no longer proud and arrogant like before. Instead, they had a sinister coldness that made people feel uneasy. Song Yuan muttered in his heart, this third Miss Chu seems to be different from before. Min, why did you come out? Lu Yao hurried over and sized her up worriedly. Just now, you heard everything? Zhou Xian nodded. I heard it. I'm willing to marry him. Song Yuan smiled. Then third Miss Chu, please prepare at home and enter the residence in 3 days. With that he did not stay any longer and turned to leave. When Song Yuan's figure disappeared, Chu Yan regained his senses and looked at Zhou Xian with a complicated gaze. Min, you have to think carefully. You'll be a concubine if you go. Zhou Xian laughed at herself. What can I do now that I'm like this? The few of them fell silent. The Crown Prince mansion doesn't have a consort or a secondary consort. There are only a few concubines. I won't be bullied if I go. Besides, I don't intend to be a concubine for the rest of my life. Lu Yao's eyes lit up. Min, you mean? Although my looks are disfigured, I still have my talent and abilities. Besides, I can borrow the Crown Prince's power if I become his woman. I haven't forgotten who caused me to become like this. Chu Liyue, let's settle our scores bit by bit. Meditation class. The room was very quiet. Everyone was focused on studying the chessboard in front of them. A crisp sound was heard. Gu Mingzhu had solved the first Xian formation. Dong Fangqing glanced at her and was surprised. He did not expect Gu Mingzhu to solve the first Xian formation after Si Ting. When Si Yang heard the sound, he could not help but turn around and look. He felt even more frustrated. Gu Mingzhu raised her chin proudly and looked at Chu Liyue in front of her. Such a simple Xian formation is just a piece of cake. Chu Liyue heard her and turned to look at her. You solved the first Xian formation? Why are you surprised? It can't be that such a simple Xian formation could trap you, right? Gu Mingzhu's eyes were filled with mockery. Actually, as long as you have experienced systematic learning and guidance from a famous teacher, you will know the characteristics of Xian formations. Naturally, you will be able to solve them quickly. However, I don't think you have seen any decent Xian formations. It's normal that you don't know where to start. Chu Liyue nodded seriously. I have not seen many Xian formations like this. She had stopped playing after she was 6 years old. Of course, she had not seen many of them. Gu Mingzhu rolled her eyes. Why don't I wait for you to solve the first Xian formation before we proceed to the second Xian formation? I don't want someone to say that I won disgracefully when they lose. Chu Liyue rejected her suggestion and her lips curved up. That's not necessary. With that, she turned around and placed a chess piece on the chessboard. The sound of the Xian formation being solved could be heard. I've been waiting for you for a long time, so I don't want to trouble you to wait for me. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 106. Everyone's jaws dropped. Chu Liyue solved the first Xian formation. Wasn't this too easy? If she remembered correctly, it had only been an hour since she came in. She actually followed Gu Mingzhu and passed the first round. No, she had already solved it long ago. She was just waiting for Gu Mingzhu. Gu Mingzhu's smug smile froze on her face. Her eyes slowly widened as she stared at the chessboard in front of Chu Liyue. You also solved the first round? Chu Liyue smiled faintly. Isn't it obvious? Gu Mingzhu felt her mind go blank. She was completely stunned when she saw Chu Liyue's nonchalant expression. How was this possible? This Xian formation was very complicated. Without some skills, it was impossible to solve it so easily. She had said it was simple just now. In fact, she had exaggerated it to mock Chu Liyue. If it was really so easy, the dozens of people in the room would not have racked their brains for so long. However, this did not seem to be a problem for Chu Liyue at all. Chu Liyue is too amazing. Didn't she just come in not long ago? She solved it so quickly. Although Gu Mingzhu was one step ahead of her, if we calculate carefully, Chu Liyue used less time. Hey, can't you guys tell that Chu Liyue already thought of the answer long ago? She was waiting for Gu Mingzhu on purpose. I think Gu Mingzhu will definitely lose this round. Tiskti, rumor has it that she used to be a good-for-nothing. How did she become so powerful in the blink of an eye? Her talent is probably comparable to Si Ting's. Gu Mingzhu's expression turned even uglier when she heard the whispers around her. Continue. As the second young mistress of the Gu family, she was used to being arrogant. How could she admit defeat at this time? Chu Liyue did not care. He turned back to look at the chessboard. After the first Xian formation was solved, the chess pieces on it changed automatically and formed the second Xian formation. Gu Mingzhu retracted her gaze in annoyance, but a trace of uneasiness surfaced in her heart. Chu Luiyue. How could he be so strong? She had just stepped onto the path of a mystic cultivator and clearly didn't have the qualifications to hire a teacher to teach her, so how could she be more outstanding than her? At first he thought that the midterm examination was a coincidence. But now, he really couldn't afford to be careless. Gu Mingzhu took a deep breath and tried her best to focus all of her attention on the second profound formation. She wanted to break it as soon as possible and defeat Chu Luiyue. However, her mind was in a mess and her mind was in a mess. She couldn't calm down at all. The more it was like this, the more anxious she became. Looking at the profound formation on the chessboard, the more complicated and difficult it was to decipher. Unknowingly, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead, and her eyes were slightly red. Dongfeng Qing, who was standing in front of her, saw her expression the clearest. He couldn't help but shake his head. Gu Mingzhu's talent was indeed not bad and she had the right to be arrogant. However, if she was too arrogant she would become arrogant. She didn't think about how the Xian formation in the forest during the midterm examination was personally set up by Elder Sun and the rest. How could she have passed it by luck? It would be difficult for Gu Mingzhu to defeat Chu Luiyue. Time always passed very quickly when she was deep in thought. Gradually the sunlight outside the window turned from warm to gentle and then to dim. Chu Luiyue looked up and realized that it was already evening. She had already spent close to 3 hours here. Thinking of this, her gaze turned and landed on Si Ting, who was beside her. His back was straight and his expression was cold. He was focused on the profound formation in front of him. The light shone on his face, outlining a sharp and clear outline. This youth was like a sharp blade that was ready to be unsheathed at any time. He always had a cold aura around him. Although he looked noble, restrained, and polite, Chu Luiyue secretly felt that this person was not as simple as he looked on the surface. Si Ting felt Chu Luiyue's gaze on him. His entire body tensed up and the hand that was holding the chess piece froze for a moment. Was she getting impatient from waiting? Si Ting couldn't help but think in his heart. Then he felt a strange emotion. Her talent was indeed stronger than he had imagined. If he had guessed correctly, she had already solved the second Xian formation. However, for some reason she hadn't taken the final step. It was as if she was waiting for him. Si Ting pursed his lips and looked at the profound formation. Then he turned his wrist slightly and the chess piece changed its direction. It landed in a position that he hadn't planned to move to just now. Crack. The second Xian formation was solved. The chess pieces on the chessboard in front of him suddenly flew up. They were black and white and automatically fell into the chess box beside him. Dongfeng Qing looked at Si Ting in surprise. I thought that you would have to spend 4 hours on this. I didn't expect. Si Ting, you seem to have improved very quickly recently. Si Ting nodded slightly. I happened to see a similar Xian formation a few days before I started. That's why I solved it faster. Dongfeng Qing stroked his beard in understanding. Haha, I heard that you've been borrowing Xian formation diagrams from the library recently. Now it seems like it's quite useful. Alright. Since you've already passed these 2 stages, you can end class early today. Many students looked at Si Ting enviously after he said that. The first place was indeed different. Not only could they leave in the middle, but they could also end class early. They didn't know how long they would have to solve it here. Xiang couldn't help but hold his head and complain. Big brother, why do I feel like you're even more powerful than before? Do you still want others to live? Si Ting stood up and looked at him nonchalantly. You can be like this if you work harder. Xiang couldn't help but mutter softly. Do you think everyone is like you? You can solve it just because you've seen something similar? If that's the case, wouldn't everyone be a genius? Those who could enter Tianlu Academy were all rather talented. However, there would always be someone better than them. When everyone gathered together, there would still be a distinction between the strong and the weak. Without a doubt, Si Ting was one of the outstanding ones. How can there be so many perverts in this world? Crack. Before Xiang could finish speaking, another sound rang out in the room. Everyone perked up. Another person solved the second stage. When they looked in the direction of the voice at the same time, they were shocked on the spot again. That was because the sound came from the chessboard in front of Chu Luiyue. The person who solved the second Xian formation right after Si Ting was actually Chu Luiyue? Dongfeng Qing was also taken aback. He unknowingly put down his crossed arms and quickly walked to Chu Liyue's side. Almost at the same time, the chess pieces on Chu Liyue's chessboard flew up and fell down on their own. Everyone no longer had any doubts when they saw this scene. Chu Liyue had indeed solved 2 Xian formations consecutively. Chu Liyue clapped his hands and stood up. He stretched his sore shoulders. It's finally over. Si Ting saw the relief on her face from the corner of his eye. The expression in his eyes softened, but it was fleeting as if it had never appeared. No one noticed. Xiyang looked at her in a daze. He finally could not help but curse softly. Damn pervert. Chu Liyue glanced at him. Xiyang trembled and retracted his neck. For some reason he felt that Chu Liyue had an indescribable aura that made people not dare to provoke him. Chu Liyue did not mind. He turned to look at Gu Mingzhu and smiled. Second young Mistress Gu, the 2 Xian formation diagrams that you promised earlier are mine now, right? Gu Mingzhu's face turned pale. To the Gu family those diagrams were rare treasures. She dared to use them as a wager because she was impulsive and confident that she could beat Chu Liyue. But now she had lost. What should she do? Did Chu Liyue really take advantage of her? Gu Mingzhu's expression changed. She suddenly thought of something and glared at Chu Liyue. Si Ting just solved it and you also solved it. How can there be such a coincidence in this world? Chu Liyue, you must have cheated. Digression. It should be up soon. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 107. Chu Liyue raised his eyebrows. Cheating? Are you saying that I was able to solve the Xian formation because I saw how Si Ting moved? Gu Mingzhu, Si Ting and I are right in front of Mr. Dongfeng. If we were to play any tricks he would have seen it clearly. Are you suspecting that Mr. Dongfeng is covering for me? Dongfeng Qing frowned and looked at Gu Mingzhu. Gu Mingzhu, this is not a place for you to fool around. I'm not fooling around. After saying that, Gu Mingzhu felt a little regretful. Saying that in front of teacher Dongfeng, wasn't she just making things difficult for herself? But what could she do now that she had said it? She gritted her teeth and made up her mind. Mr. Dongfeng, don't you find it strange? Why did Chu Liyue succeed right after Si Ting? Isn't this too strange? Everyone looked at each other and were somewhat suspicious. Dongfeng Qing was so angry that he laughed. Gu Mingzhu, this is not the first time you have attended classes here. Don't you know whether you can cheat or not by seeing how the people around you solve the Xian formation? The room was silent for a moment. Although everyone was sitting next to each other, they were all quite a distance away from each other. It was not that easy to see what was going on around them. More importantly, this chessboard was used to train their ability to solve Xian formations. Usually only the people in front of them could see clearly. From other positions they could only see blurry shadows. Chu Liyue and Si Ting were sitting next to each other, but from Chu Liyue's position, they should not be able to see anything. Xiyang laughed out loud and mocked, "You're right. Gu Mingzhu, you are not far from my brother. You can see how he moved just by looking up. Why didn't you solve the second Xian formation?" Gu Mingzhu's face was red and she could not speak. Although I don't want to admit it, this pervert is quite talented. Do you think that elder son and the rest are so easily fooled? Xiyang remembered clearly that elder son was full of praise for Chu Liyue that day. At first he didn't want to believe it, but later he realized that Chu Liyue was indeed not an ordinary person. Although he couldn't compare to him, he was willing to admit that he was powerful. How could he be like Gu Mingzhu? Gu Mingzhu, are you a sore loser? Gu Mingzhu glared at Xiyang. Shut up. Chu Liyue smiled amiably. Second Miss Gu has a noble status, so she's definitely not someone who doesn't know what to say. Everyone present clearly heard the 2 scrolls of Xian formation diagrams mentioned earlier. If second Miss Gu were to renege on her debt, wouldn't that be too shameless? Who are you calling shameless? How could Gu Mingzhu not tell that Chu Liyue was scolding her? She immediately became anxious. Chu Liyue blinked in surprise. Second Miss Gu, what do you mean? Are you really not going to fulfill your end of the bet? Gu Mingzhu felt extremely aggrieved. Since Chu Liyue had already spoken, what else could she say? She couldn't help but glance at Dongfeng Qing. As expected, she saw that he was also a little impatient. She knew that it wouldn't do her any good if she continued to make a fuss. Isn't it just 2 scrolls of Xian formation diagrams? I'll give them to you. She pressed her hand firmly on the chessboard, barely restraining the anger in her heart. At the same time, she was thinking about how to explain it to her family. Everything else was fine, but if the family head knew that she lost these things in a bet. Second, Miss Gu is really generous. Then Liu will thank you here. Although Chu Liyue didn't care about the Zhou Xian formation diagrams, since the other party had delivered it to her door, how could she not accept it? After speaking, Chu Liyue looked at Dongfang Qing. Teacher Dongfang, can I also leave class now? Dongfang Qing originally wanted to chat with her, but seeing that she seemed to want to leave, he didn't force her to stay. Of course. Thank you, Teacher Dongfang. After speaking, Chu Liyue simply packed her things and walked out. Almost at the same time, Si Ting also said goodbye to Dongfang Qing and walked out with Chu Liyue. Gu Mingzhu watched the two of them disappear together. She bit her lower lip and punched the chessboard angrily. B*TV. You're going to cause trouble for me again if you come out with me. After walking out of the door, Chu Liyue looked at Si Ting, who was following behind her. Si Ting frowned slightly. I'm sorry to cause you trouble, but there's really nothing between me and Gu Mingzhu. He knew that Gu Mingzhu was interested in him, but the two of them didn't usually talk in private. He also didn't know that Gu Mingzhu would deliberately cause trouble for Chu Liyue today. It was obvious that Chu Liyue was very smart and had already figured out the reason. For some reason he was a little nervous. He was afraid that Chu Liyue would misunderstand, but he also had an inexplicable sense of anticipation. This has nothing to do with me. Chu Liyue shook her head. Looking at the handsome young man in front of her, she thought that it was really easy to attract girls with his looks. She didn't care at first, but it wouldn't be good if it affected her. But I don't want something like this to happen again in the future. So if there's nothing important, it's better that we don't interact too much. Hearing the distant politeness in the young girl's tone, Si Ting felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on his heart. His lips moved as if he wanted to explain, but on second thought, what right did he have to explain? After Chu Liyue finished speaking, she walked forward and lightly said, I'm sorry. But I still have to thank you for today. Si Ting hesitated for a moment, then quickly walked forward and blocked her way. I promise that something like this won't happen again. But I also have a question that I hope you can answer. Chu Liyue nodded and gestured for him to ask. Si Ting paused and stared at Chu Liyue's clear, black and bright eyes as he enunciated every word. He said slowly, You already solved the second Xian formation, didn't you? Chu Liyue looked at him with interest and asked him a question in return. Aren't you the same? Si Ting was suddenly at a loss for words. He had always concealed it so well that even Dongfang Qing didn't notice it. But Chu Liyue saw right through him. Chu Liyue had long felt that something was wrong with Si Ting. Today when they were in class together, she finally realized it. He was also hiding his talents and abilities. Although she didn't know the reason, Chu Liyue wasn't interested in asking further. Then, how long did you take? Si Ting didn't deny it. Instead, he looked at Chu Liyue with an inquisitive gaze. Chu Liyue's lips curved up as she walked past him. I've already answered one of your questions. As for the rest, I have no comment. Si Ting turned around and saw that the slender young girl had already left. By the time she returned to her room, the sky was already dark. The moment she entered the room, she immediately stopped in her tracks. Then she quickly chopped behind her. Who is it? Her wrist was grabbed by a warm and strong hand. Then with a strong pull, she was easily pulled into an embrace. Chu Liyue was shocked. She flipped her wrist and a silver light flashed across her eyes. At this moment, a familiar cold fragrance wafted over and made her stop in her tracks. Are you trying to kill your husband? A lazy voice sounded beside her ear. Chu Liyue looked up and saw a beautiful face that could infuriate anyone. Rongxiu. Digression. Happy Queen's Day, la 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 la. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 108. Chu Liyue raised her eyebrows slightly, took a step forward and said with a smile that was not a smile, What is your highness trying to do? Rongxiu looked at her crafty black eyes that were like a fox's, sighed softly and laughed softly. I really don't know what to do with you. Before he finished speaking, his body moved, and he quickly grabbed both of her wrists and then used one hand. Chapter 108. Waiting for you, translator. Endless fantasy translation. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, Please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 109. Although the residence that the academy had arranged for Chu Liyue was not big, there were still spare rooms. Seeing that Rong Xiu had once again snatched her bed, Chu Liyue was no longer angry. She had even gotten used to it. She went to the room next door, closed the door and listened carefully for a while. She did not detect any movement in the room next door, so she calmed down. Since Rong Xiu could sneak into Tianlu Academy without anyone noticing, he would not be discovered so easily. She was not worried about this. It was already late, but Chu Liyue did not go to bed immediately. Instead, she sat cross-legged, held her breath, and focused on absorbing the heaven and earth force. Waves of invisible energy gradually merged into her body, passing through her limbs and bones before silently flowing into the water droplet in her dantian. Ever since she had forged this special pill of origin and officially embarked on the path of cultivation again, Chu Liyue had not relaxed for even a day. No matter how busy or tired she was, she would persevere in her cultivation and not waste a single drop of time. Although no one forced her, there was always a voice in her heart that kept reminding her that she still had many things to do. Being reborn was a great opportunity. She had to make herself stronger as soon as possible. After an unknown period of time, Chu Liyue finally opened her eyes slowly and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. She could feel the aura in her body growing stronger day by day. This body had the Daijing Yuan meridian after all, so it was much faster than ordinary people when cultivating. However, it was still not enough. She had been born with the Tianjing Yuan meridian in her previous life. Her talent was extraordinary, and the Daijing Yuan meridian she had now could not compare to it. However, she also knew that this matter could not be rushed. Her former enemy's status was much higher than hers, so she could only plan slowly. Previously, Xiyang had said that the first place of the midterm assessment would have the chance to meet the envoy from the Tianling dynasty. Calculating the time, it should be soon. Chu Liyue finally wrote down a Xian formation diagram in her mind before finally resting. The next day, Chu Liyue woke up early in the morning. After tidying up, she remembered that Rong Xiu was still sleeping in the room next door. She walked over and knocked on the door. No one agreed. He pushed the door open and saw that she had already left. Chu Liyue face-bombed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The dignified Prince Li seemed to really treat her place as an inn. However, it would be troublesome if he stayed here at this time. Chu Liyue no longer paid attention to these, turned around and went out. Hey, have you heard? Yesterday, during the Xian Master's meditation class, Gu Mingzhu challenged Chu Liyue and lost 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams. Are you serious? Wasn't Gu Mingzhu's talent also very strong? How could he lose to Chu Liyue? Of course it's real. This matter had already spread throughout the entire academy. Gu Mingzhu is talented, but have you forgotten that Chu Liyue got second place in the midterm assessment on his first day here? However, she really has guts. With Gu Mingzhu's status, she actually didn't give her any face. She didn't even give face to the crown prince, let alone others. I think this Chu Liyue is really not someone to be trifled with. Chu Liyue arrived at Jiyo Tower and heard the discussions from afar. After seeing her figure, these voices quickly disappeared. Everyone looked at her with an uneasy expression. Perhaps many people from the Xian Master's side had not seen Chu Liyue before, but Chu Liyue was very famous among the warriors. When she was competing with Chu Xianmin that day, the warriors were all present. However, Chu Liyue turned a deaf ear to all these and walked straight to Jiyo Tower. Wait. A provocative voice sounded and Chu Liyue looked up. The person blocking her path was none other than Lu Fian. What's the matter? Chu Liyue asked lightly. Lu Fian's thin brows knitted together. Her already sharp voice became even more ear-piercing when she raised it. Of course there's something. Chu Liyue, what are you doing here? Chu Liyue said matter-of-factly, to cultivate, of course. This is the territory of martial artists. Who knows what intentions a Xian cultivator like you has by coming here? Lu Fian had been bullied by Chu Liyue the day before and did not sleep well the entire night. No matter how she thought about it, she felt aggrieved. Just as she was thinking about how to deal with her, Chu Liyue came knocking on her door. There were many warriors here, so she was not afraid of Chu Liyue. Upon hearing this, Chu Liyue's calm expression finally changed. She raised her brows slightly and asked, "The warrior's territory is the warrior's territory. This is a warrior's territory. Am I, the person who won first place in the warrior competition, not qualified to come here? Lu Fian was stunned. She then remembered that although Chu Luiyue had gone to the Xian master's side to cultivate, she had indeed won the warrior's first place during the midterm assessment. She was actually more qualified than anyone else to come here. Lu Fian's expression froze. My time is very precious. If you continue to obstruct me, I can't guarantee what I will do. Chu Luiyue's expression was calm, and her tone was indifferent, as though she was talking about something unimportant. But it was precisely this attitude that made Lu Fian feel an inexplicable fear. She almost subconsciously took a step back, but with so many people watching, she felt even more indignant. When Chu Luiyue walked past, she could not help but curse in a low voice. What's there to be proud of? You're just a stray dog. Without the support of an aristocratic family, what capabilities could Chu Luiyue have? Upon hearing this, Chu Luiyue did not stop and only laughed faintly. This was not the first time she had heard such words, but she did not care at all. In everyone's eyes, the Chu family was large and had a stable foundation. But to her and Chu Ning, it was nothing more than a dirty and smelly cage. The sooner she could leave, the sooner she would be happy. As for Lu Fian, who did not know how to speak, she could deal with her another day. Seeing that Chu Luiyue ignored her, Lu Fian thought that she was afraid. She could not help but feel more confident and said to the people behind her, "Did you see that? Chu Luiyue is just doing well on the surface. She has offended the Chu family and the crown prince. She will suffer in the future." When she said this, she did not get the agreement she expected. The few women looked at each other and hesitated for a long time before saying hesitantly, I heard that the Chu family's situation is not very good now. They said that the crown prince is going to marry into the Chu family in 2 days, but Minmin seems to be just a concubine. In the past, everyone thought that Zhou Xian's position as the crown princess was secure, and they thought highly of the Chu family. But it was different now. Zhou Xian married into the crown prince's family with such a status. It was equivalent to giving the Chu family a slap. The Chu family was in a worse situation. On the other hand, Chu Luiyue's life after leaving the Chu family was smooth sailing. The expression in Lu Fian's eyes changed. She deliberately sighed and put on a sorrowful expression. Minmin has already been disfigured. The position of the crown princess naturally has to be given to someone else. When is the date? We have to go together and support her. There were not many opportunities to see the crown prince. He would not miss it. At this moment, Chu Luiyue had already reached Juyou Tower. An elder in a white robe was sitting in front of the door, pretending to be asleep. Before every student entered, they had to stop in front of the elder for a moment. Chu Luiyue saw that they all took off the nameplate on their left chest and placed it on a square black jade in front of the elder before picking it up. She walked closer and saw that a few lines of words would appear on the jade whenever the nameplate was placed on the jade. It was her turn. She had just placed her nameplate on the jade when the elder suddenly opened his eyes. "Are you the girl who got first place in the midterm assessment, Chu Luiyue?" He pursed his lips. "Why didn't you register your Yuan Meridian level?" Digression. Mobile users who are working hard to save their manuscripts, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 110. Chu Luiyue paused. "I don't know about this." The elder chuckled and waved his hand. "It's normal that you didn't register. Every year when new students enter the academy, they will be tested and registered together. But your situation is special, so it's normal that you don't have this. You can find some time to take the test later." Chu Luiyue then remembered that when the first few people placed their nameplates on the black jade stone, not only would their names be displayed, but it would also display their Yuan Meridian and Cultivation level. But when she placed her nameplate on the stone, only her name was displayed. No, there was a number behind it. 19. Chu Luiyue looked at the number behind her name strangely. This is the time you have to cultivate in Juyou Tower. According to the results of the midterm assessment, every student will be allocated a different amount of time to cultivate. You came in second in the Xian Master assessment and first in the Warrior assessment, so you have exactly 38 hours in total. The elder was very patient and explained it to Chu Luiyue. After he finished speaking, Chu Luiyue clearly felt that many people around her looked at her again. Unlike the curiosity and reverence from before, Chu Liwei felt more envy this time. Envy? Could it be because of these 38 hours? Chu Liwei knew that there were conditions for entering Jiuyou Tower to cultivate, but now it seemed that it was more difficult than she had imagined. She had obtained such results in only 38 hours. It was easy to imagine how much time others had. Teacher, can I freely allocate these 38 hours? The elder smiled slyly. Of course it's not that simple. Although you have a lot of time, there's a limit to the amount of time you can cultivate every day. Most Xian masters and celestial physicians didn't care about this aspect of cultivation, so they rarely came to Jiuyou Tower to absorb force. Most of them were martial artists. After all, the force density in Jiuyou Tower was much higher than outside. If one could cultivate inside, their speed would increase by a lot. To any martial artist, this was an enormous temptation. And this time is naturally divided according to the martial artist's level. Rank 1 warriors spend 2 hours a day, rank 2 warriors spend 4 hours, and so on and so forth. The old man's eyes sparkled with excitement and curiosity as he stared at Chu Liwei. I heard that you defeated Chu Xianmin previously. You should be a stage 3 warrior now, right? When Chu Liwei heard him mention the martial artist rank, he knew something was wrong. She was not weak, but who would have thought that she had just broken through to become a stage 1 warrior? No matter how hard she tried, the thing in her dantian refused to add another line. Chu Liwei couldn't do anything about it. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, Student, rank 1 warrior. The Chu clan. First Elder, do you mean that you don't intend to give Minmin a dowry? Although Chu Yan and Lu Yao were unwilling to let their daughter marry into the crown prince's residence as a concubine, they had no other choice but to agree. 3 days was too rushed, so they could only prepare as much dowry as possible to make Chu Xianmin's life easier after she married into the crown prince's residence. However, they didn't expect to be stopped by the first elder. The first elder was expressionless. The crown prince's residence hasn't been earning much in recent years. Both of you know this best. Now that the date has been set in a hurry, there's no time to prepare so much dowry. Chu Yan suppressed his anger. Minmin is going to marry into the crown prince's residence. This represents the Chu family's face. If Minmin is looked down upon, it will embarrass the Chu family as well. It's not bad to marry into the crown prince's residence, but she's just a concubine. The first elder put down the teacup in his hand and looked at the two with a sullen face. If her dowry is too generous now, how will she live when the crown princess and secondary consort enter the residence? Instead of being in the limelight for a while, it's better to keep a low profile and avoid more trouble. These words made Chu Yan and Lu Yao speechless, but the anger in their hearts burned even brighter. Although the Chu family wasn't the same as before, it wasn't to the point where they couldn't even afford such a small amount of money. Moreover, Chu Xianmin was the Chu family's first daughter. Ever since she got close to the crown prince's residence had been secretly preparing the dowry. The first elder said there wasn't any because Chu Xianmin had lost her position as the crown princess, so he purposely treated her harshly and wanted to keep this sum of money. How could Chu Yan and Lu Yao agree? First elder, although Minmin can't marry into the crown prince's residence as the crown princess, it's hard to say what the future holds. If you insist on this, that's all in the future. Who can say for sure? Hearing this, the first elder interrupted him, but his heart was still shaken, so he said, That's right. However, seeing that you only have one daughter, the crown prince's residence will give you 32 dowries. Lu Yao sneered in her heart. Are you trying to dismiss a beggar with this amount of money? The Chu family is so big, but giving out 32 dowries is embarrassing enough. The first elder seemed to have seen through her thoughts and added calmly, Lu Yao, you've been serving the crown princess for a long time. I'm sure you've already saved up some dowries for Minmin. The crown prince's residence giving you this is already very benevolent. Don't you think so? Lu Yao gritted her teeth. The first elder was threatening her with the matter of her pocketing the money. However, she didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. After all, her reputation would be ruined if word got out. However, she couldn't say anything about it. It was true that she took the money, but which of her daily necessities didn't cost money? Her family of 3 was used to luxury and liked to choose the best for everything. They didn't have much money left. Most importantly, Zhou Xian spent hundreds of thousands of silver taels to buy things at Zhenbao Pavilion a month ago. She originally wanted to wait for Zhou Xian to win first place in the academy and win the crown prince's favor before going to her parents' house to ask for the money. However, who knew that Chu Liwei would appear and mess up all her plans? The Lu family was now mocking and ridiculing them. Why would they give them a single cent? Zhenbao Pavilion was pressing her and she didn't dare to offend this family. She could only take the money from her own pocket. How would she have the money for Zhou Xian's wedding? However, the first elder's behavior made it clear that he wouldn't change his mind. If she continued, she would only be humiliating herself. Lu Yao resisted the urge to stand up. She glanced at Chu Yan, who still wanted to say something, and the two of them left with grievances. Tianlu Academy Juyo Tower. Chu Liwei ignored the various gazes around him and put the nameplate back on his left chest. He calmed himself down and looked forward. Juyo Tower had a total of 9 floors. It was made of black iron and was thick and majestic. Looking from the bottom, it looked like a sharp sword piercing through the clouds as if it could tear the sky apart at any time. Every floor had 8 corners that were raised up like eaves with bells hanging from them. When the wind blew, one could hear the crisp sound of the bells nearby. Chu Liwei had already walked in through the greenish-black bronze door. There was a strange carving above the door. Seemed to be an eagle. Its head was slightly lowered and its eyes were tightly shut. A pair of huge wings were folded in front of its body, and it looked extremely majestic. The remaining karmic fire seemed to be crazily spreading and burning it. For some reason, Chu Liwei felt an inexplicable murderous aura with just one look. She covered up this strange feeling and reached out her hand to push the door open. At this moment, the eagle's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Scarlet. Brutal. Terrifying. The piercing murderous intent went straight for Chu Liwei. Digression. It will be published tomorrow and the editor will have to approve it. Hence, it will be published around noon. It will be more convenient for everyone to read it in the afternoon. Thank you for all your support. I will work hard in writing in February. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 111. The next moment, a flame seemed to gather under the palm she placed on the door, burning wildly. In an instant, the flame seemed to have spread from her palm to her entire body. The scorching heat surrounded her in an instant. Every inch of her body felt as if it had been burned by a raging fire. Her internal organs felt as if they were being gripped tightly by something, and the pain pierced her heart. Chu Liwei was shocked and furious. This flame was actually trying to kill her. She wanted to retreat, but she realized that she couldn't move at all. It was as if her entire body was being controlled. The flame had already rapidly burned through her limbs and bones, heading for her dantian. That biting cold and terrifying murderous intent made Chu Liwei's hair stand on end. The dantian was the most important part of a cultivator. Once it was damaged, one would never be able to cultivate for the rest of their lives. This thing was actually here for this. However, just as the powerful force was about to enter her dantian, the water droplet that had been quietly floating in Chu Liwei's dantian suddenly started spinning rapidly. Boom! An invisible suppressive force shot out from Chu Liwei's body and went straight for him. Chu Liwei could even clearly feel the two forces colliding fiercely, and the terrifying force spread throughout her body. At this moment, Chu Liwei felt as if there was lava bursting in her body, and there wasn't a single part of her body that wasn't painful. Fortunately, the force that burst forth from the water droplet was extremely strong, and it almost destroyed the force that wanted to kill Chu Liwei. Only then did the terrifying pain gradually dissipate. However, Chu Liwei didn't dare to relax. Her eyes were fixed on the picture on the door. When she looked, she realized that the eagle's eyes were already closed. It was as if everything that had just happened had never happened. Chu Liwei gradually clenched her fists tightly. No, that definitely wasn't an illusion. If not for the power of the water droplet, she would probably have been a dead person by now. She never would have thought that she would be on the brink of death before even entering Juyo Tower. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Seeing Chu Liwei standing in front of the door without moving, the old man asked doubtfully. Chu Liwei turned around to take a look. The old man and the people around him didn't seem to have noticed what had happened in that instant. Her mind raced as she shook her head. Nothing. After saying that, she didn't stay any longer and walked in. Zhou Tower had a total of 9 floors. The space inside was very spacious and there were many partitioned rooms. The people who had come in earlier had already familiarized themselves with the place and were heading towards the rooms that they liked to cultivate in. Right in the middle was a spiral staircase, obviously leading to the top. Some people didn't stop at the first floor but instead went straight up. In Zhou Tower, the higher the floor, the denser the force. However, each layer was separated by a barrier. Anyone who wanted to enter the higher floors to cultivate would have to pass through the barrier. And this depended on one's own ability. Generally, low-level students could only cultivate on the first floor. Chu Luiyue wasn't in a hurry to choose a room to cultivate in. Instead, she stood still and lowered her head to look at her palm. A charred mark could be clearly seen. She had placed her hand on the door just now. That terrifying flame had also entered her body through her palm. This burn mark was the best proof of what had just happened. But why did this happen? There was clearly no problem for other students to enter Zhou Tower. Why did this happen to her alone? Why did that eagle suddenly open its eyes and have such a strong murderous intent towards her? Perhaps that murderous intent wasn't directed at her, but at the water droplet in her dantian. Chu Luiyue furrowed her brows, but she didn't have an answer. Chu Luiyue, haven't you chosen a room yet? A voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw an unfamiliar girl's face. That girl was pretty and her almond-shaped eyes were extremely cute. She raised her hand and pointed to the side. Actually, there isn't much difference between the rooms on the first floor. You can just choose one to cultivate in. However, the names that appear on the door are signs that someone has already entered. You can just choose those that are empty. Chu Luiyue nodded. Thank you. That girl grinned. What's there to thank me for? My name is Mu Hongyu. You can just call me Hongyu. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh. So this girl was a sociable person. He quite liked her character. However, she didn't know her, so why did she seem so friendly? Hey, you can call me Luyu then. Mu Hongyu sized up Chu Luiyue curiously. You're really different from the rumors. Chu Luiyue didn't need to ask to guess what those so-called rumors said about her, but she wasn't interested in asking. Others can't wait to avoid me. Why are you taking the initiative to help me? Mu Hongyu snorted. You taught Chu Xianmin a lesson, so I'm naturally on your side. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Chu Luiyue was amused. She felt that this girl was purposely helping her because she had a grudge against Chu Xianmin. However, she also agreed with what she said. I'm not talking to you anymore. I still have to go up and cultivate. After Mu Hongyu finished speaking, she simply turned around and walked upstairs. Chu Luiyue originally wanted to go up, but she hesitated when she thought of what had just happened. She still chose to stay on the first floor. Chu Luiyue roughly looked around and realized that the layout of every room was almost the same. In the end, she chose a very secluded spot and went in. After closing the door and isolating herself from all kinds of gazes, Chu Luiyue sat cross-legged on the stone platform in the room. She wasn't in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, she looked at the burn mark on her palm again. However, it still seemed to hurt slightly. Chu Luiyue fell into deep thought. Zhou Tower was the most important place in Tianlu Academy. It was also the foundation of the academy. If anything happened, the teachers in the academy would definitely not sit back and do nothing. However, that elder was so close to her just now, but he didn't seem to have noticed anything. Chu Luiyue couldn't guarantee that no one else knew about this, but the most important thing now was to figure out why Zhou Tower was targeting her. Or rather, it was targeting the water droplet in her body. Where exactly did you come from? How did you get into so much trouble? Chu Luiyue asked in her heart. However, the water droplet didn't move. It's my first time here, so it's scary but not dangerous. However, this won't happen again in the future, right? Chu Luiyue's eyelids twitched. If this happens every day, I don't need to come to Zhou Tower anymore. Isn't it troublesome enough? This time, the water droplet trembled slightly and a line of words finally appeared. What's there to fear from a mere evil creature? Evil creature? Chu Luiyue was stunned for a while and a chill rose from the bottom of her feet. You mean that there's a fiend in Zhou Tower? How is this possible? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 112. Below Juyo Tower was a pit of heavenly origins. It was because of this that the heaven and earth force in the tower was so abundant. To cultivators this was a good place to quickly improve their cultivation. But to fiends it was the opposite. The pit of heavenly origins was a natural force treasure trove. It contained rich heaven and earth force, but it was also mixed with many impurities. If one absorbed too much it would cause harm to the cultivator's body. If it was light it would damage one's yuan meridian, and if it was heavy it would cause death. Cultivators could use all kinds of methods to expel these impurities, but fiends could not. Moreover, fiends were mostly cruel and vicious, so the pit of heavenly origins had a greater impact on them. If they stayed for too long, they would easily lose their minds and eventually go berserk. They might even explode and die. Juyo Tower was built above the pit of heavenly origins. How could there be fiends here? The words on the water droplet dissipated quickly. It had no intention of explaining. Chu Luiyue frowned. Although this statement was absurd, she inexplicably believed it in her heart. When the eagle opened its eyes, she was very sure that it was the aura of a fiend. But why did the academy do this? Whether it was to the fiends or the students cultivating in the tower, this was a great hidden danger. And as the dean, did Master know about this? Prince Li's mansion. Seeing that his master had finally returned, Umo hurriedly went to welcome him. Master, you're back. Rong Xiu nodded, looking relaxed. Umo saw the faint smile at the corner of his mouth and was surprised. As long as he stayed with that person for a period of time, his master's mood would always improve. He really had to give it to him. Looks like master had a good night's rest. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows. Was the mansion still lively yesterday? Umo bowed. Yes, the other party sent another group of people. They wanted to break into your bedroom to find out what was going on, but we took them down. Still suicide soldiers? Yes, they were the same as the people who came 2 days ago. They didn't care about their lives. Seeing that they couldn't break in, they wanted to commit suicide by taking poison. However, one of them didn't die and is now locked up. Yan Qing interrogated him all night and used a lot of tricks. Finally, that person spat out something. Rong Xiu stopped in his tracks. Umo lowered his voice. It's the Crown Prince's men. Rong Xiu smiled. After so many years it's still the same trick. He's not tired, but I'm tired. Umo asked hesitantly. Master, what do you think of this person? Is Third Imperial Brother still in the Imperial capital? Rong Xiu suddenly asked. Yes. His Majesty said that His Highness, the Third Prince, had been fighting at the border for many years and had suffered a lot. Now that there is no war and the Third Prince has reached the age to marry and have children, His Majesty's intention is to let the Third Prince stay in the Imperial capital. Rong Xiu chuckled. Rong Jiu had made great contributions in the Northwest Army, and his reputation was at its peak. How could father be at ease and let him go back? Staying in the Imperial capital was the safest option. I've been back for a long time, but I haven't visited Third Imperial Brother. Tell Yan Qing to bring him along. I'll give Third Imperial Brother a big gift. Yes. Rong Jiu joined the army at a young age and was always outside. In the past he would only stay in the palace for a few days before leaving. However, when he came back this time, Emperor Zhaoan said that he was old enough to stay in the palace. Hence, he specially prepared a mansion for him outside the palace. The size of this mansion was actually similar to Rong Xiu's princely mansion. However, the decree to confer him a prince had not been passed down. Rong Jiu originally had some hope, but after waiting day after day, Emperor Zhaoan repeatedly refused to let him go back. Hence he understood what was going on. Conferring him a prince was a small matter. Trapping him in the imperial capital was a big matter. The Northwest Army kept inviting him back, but Rong Jiu knew that it would be difficult this time. After thinking this through, he calmed down and continued to stay in the imperial capital as if he didn't notice the emperor's fear at all. In the backyard, Rong Jiu and Rong Feng were sparring. The two of them exchanged blows with each other. Rong Feng was quite talented, and he had been diligently cultivating with the teachers in the palace. He was only 15 years old, but he was already a stage 3 warrior. However, compared to Rong Jiu, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, he was still inexperienced. After 10 rounds, Rong Jiu found an opportunity to stab Rong Feng with his spear and easily sent Rong Feng's sword flying. Rongfeng looked at the sword that fell to the ground and smiled bitterly. Third brother, can't you go easy on me? It's so boring every time. Rongjio twirled his spear. Who would go easy on you on the battlefield? Rongfeng was speechless, but he immediately shrugged and smiled proudly. I know you're doing this for my own good, third brother. Those people in the palace tiptoe around me every time I fight. It's so annoying. Rongjio's lips twitched. Then why don't you go to Tianlu Academy? The teachers there won't be like this. The crown prince is there. I don't want to go. Rongfeng rolled his eyes. I've been compared to him since I was young. Isn't it annoying? Upon hearing this, Rongjio looked at him fixedly. So, you've been hiding your abilities and pretending that you're not as good as him? Who dares to be more outstanding than the crown prince? Isn't that finding trouble for myself? I'm not that bored. Rongfeng threw himself onto the rattan chair at the side. Didn't you see that seventh brother hasn't returned to the imperial city for 10 years? Just because he was conferred the title of prince, he got himself into so much trouble? Third brother, I think you're a thorn in his side even in the imperial city. Rongjio was about to speak when he suddenly saw his trusted aide walking over quickly. Third prince, someone from Princely Mansion said that Princely has a gift for you. It's already outside the door. Gift? Bring it in. Rongfeng followed closely behind, looking curious. Third brother, what gift did seventh brother give you? Isn't your birthday still early? Rongjio didn't say anything, but he was thinking in his heart. Very quickly, a wooden box was carried in. Rongjio narrowed his eyes, turned his wrist and stabbed his spear out. The wooden box opened. A thick smell of blood assaulted his nostrils. Inside the wooden box was a person covered in wounds and blood. His entire body was twisted into a strange position and stuffed into the wooden box. Just one look was enough to make one shiver. Rongfeng gasped. He had never seen such a scene before. His expression changed drastically and he started retching. Rongjio looked at him and frowned. Third brother. This is a dead person? Rongfeng said with difficulty. Why did seventh brother give you this? The person beside him reminded him. His Highness isn't dead yet. Your Highness, this person is not dead yet. He just fainted from excessive blood loss. Rongjio stepped forward. Third brother, don't go over. Rongjio flicked his spear and something flew out. It was a small seal. Rongjio picked up the seal and looked at it carefully. His expression changed slightly. He thought for a moment. Lock this person up and keep him alive. We can't let him die. Then he turned around and left. Upon seeing this, Rongfeng hurriedly followed. Third brother, where are you going? Rongjio didn't look back. Since Rongxiu had given him such a big gift, he naturally had to accept it. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 113. 3 days passed quickly, and it was Chu Liuyue's wedding day in the blink of an eye. However, other than her own residence that was slightly decorated, the rest of the Chu family did not have the slightest bit of festive spirit. In the past, when the residents held a wedding, the servants would fight to be the first to do the work. On one hand, they wanted to leave a good impression in front of their masters, and on the other hand, they wanted to get more money. However, Chu Xianmin's courtyard was cold and cheerless. Only a few servants who usually served her here were busy with work. If not for the fact that they could not avoid it, they would not have come. The entire residence knew that although Zhou Xian was marrying into the Crown Prince Mansion, she was only marrying into the Crown Prince Mansion as a concubine. It was not presentable. Because of this, the first elder did not even prepare any dowry for her. It was obvious that this wedding was not a joyous occasion. A few servants discussed softly as they packed up. With third Missy's status, I thought she would marry into the Crown Prince consort. I didn't expect her to be a concubine. Where's our Chu family's face? That's right. The Chu family's life has not been good these few years. Now that the first Missy is marrying into the Crown Prince consort's life, we are a joke for no reason. Third Missy used to be so glamorous, but many people are laughing at her now. Who can be blamed for that? Third Missy's face is disfigured and she has to wear a veil wherever she goes. Besides, her reputation is long gone. Even if she is willing to marry, no one will want her. Where can she go other than the Crown Prince Mansion? She's coming out. The The door was pushed open and Zhou Xian walked out with the help of someone. The servants in the courtyard immediately stopped talking, but their eyes kept sizing her up. She was wearing a red wedding dress and a veil, but she did not wear a phoenix coronet. She only wore a golden jade hairpin from the Crown Prince mansion. It was not that she did not want to dress up, but the rules were as such. Only the first wife had the right to wear a phoenix coronet. For someone like her who entered the Crown Prince mansion as a concubine, she had to dress simply. Zhou Xian walked out of the room and the courtyard was cold and empty. Other than her original servants, there was no one else who came to celebrate. It's good that they didn't come. Wasn't he just making fun of her by coming at this time? Zhou Xian clenched her teeth and dug her nails deep into her palms to suppress the anger and indignation in her heart. It's so quiet. Is the Crown Prince not here yet? Why didn't I hear any gongs or drums? Asked Zhou Xian as she suppressed her anger. Those people in the Crown Prince's residence were really something. In the past they used to curry favor with her. Now that she was in dire straits, they even dared to neglect her wedding. Everyone looked at each other. Lu Yao stood at the side with a stiff expression on her face. She had actually forgotten to tell Min that the Crown Prince did not need to personally come over to welcome this marriage. At this moment someone walked over quickly. Isn't it already packed? Why aren't you leaving yet? The sedan chair is already waiting outside. Third Miss Chu, please come in. This man looked familiar to Zhou Xian. He was just a normal guard in the Crown Prince mansion. He used to bow and scrape when he saw her, but he dared to speak with a straight back in front of her now. But that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was, what do you mean? The Crown Prince is not coming. Zhou Xian widened her eyes. Lu Yao pulled her and whispered, Min, don't worry. According to the rules there's nothing wrong with this. Zhou Xian finally recovered her senses. The Crown Prince would not even come to her so-called wedding. He would just send someone over casually. That guard smiled with a hint of mockery on his face. Third Miss Chu, His Highness is busy with work. How can he have the time for such a small matter? Small matter. He actually said that the most important thing in a woman's life was a small matter. Zhou Xian had fantasized about marrying into the Crown Prince mansion countless times. It should be colorful and grand. It should not be as simple and disgusting as it was now. It was only at this moment that she realized that she was a concubine. Zhou Xian did not know how she suppressed the surging emotions in her heart. She also did not know how she walked to the sedan chair outside the door. Only when she reached the Crown Prince mansion's door did she finally recover her senses. She lifted the curtain at the side and looked outside. The Crown Prince mansion's door was tightly shut. It did not look like a wedding was going to be held. Yes. She could only enter through the small door. A strong sense of humiliation welled up in her heart. Zhou Xian was born to be favored by the heavens. She had been the object of envy for so many years. When had she ever been so lowly? Her hatred for Chu Liyue increased by another level. The servant brought her to a yard in the backyard of the Crown Prince mansion. Tingfeng Garden will be your residence in the future. The Crown Prince has something important to do today, so he won't be able to come. You can wait here for now. After saying this, the person who brought her here turned around and left. Zhou Xian took a look and saw a few servants and page boys standing outside. They must have been sent to serve her. She was extremely aggrieved at this point, so she could not care about them. There was only one way left for her now. No matter what, she had to win the Crown Prince's favor. Zhou Xian waited for an entire day. It wasn't until night fell that the courtyard suddenly became lively. Greetings, Your Highness. Hearing this voice, Zhou Xian hurriedly stood up to welcome him. Rongjin had already pushed the door open and entered. Your Highness, you're finally here. After the previous incident, Rongjin disliked Zhou Xian. Now that he was forced to marry her under his father's pressure, he did not even want to see her face. Hence he was busy the entire day and only came at night. As soon as he entered, he saw a familiar figure. Zhou Xian was wearing a red wedding dress and stood there prettily. The warm and dim candlelight in the room enveloped her in a layer of hazy light, which added a rare charm to her. Even though she was not dressed to the nines today, the cut of the wedding dress was appropriate, outlining her exquisite and slender figure. Her slender waist could be held with one arm. Rongjin looked at her and squinted his eyes. Zhou Xian was indeed beautiful without mentioning anything else. The red veil covered her face, revealing only a pair of timid and sparkling eyes. They were especially seductive. Rongjin walked toward her and his voice became much gentler. There were too many things today and I couldn't get away. That's why I'm late. Min, you won't blame me, right? Why would I? Your Highness's matters are the most important. I'm already very happy that you still care about me, said Zhou Xian with a smile, but her eyes were filled with tears, making her look pitiful. This time Rongjin's heart ached even more. He gently touched her shoulder with one hand and was a little tempted. As he spoke he wanted to pull her veil. Min. Zhou Xian did not expect him to be so direct. She immediately wanted to stop him but it was too late. Rongjin had already seen the scarlet and scary scar on her face. Your face. As if he had seen something terrifying he quickly retreated, and the ambiguity just now disappeared in an instant. Zhou Xian seemed to have been slapped harshly. When she hurriedly put on the veil and wanted to explain herself, Song Yuan's anxious voice suddenly came from outside. Your Highness. Her Majesty urgently summons you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 114. Upon hearing this, Rongjin heaved a sigh of relief. Why, you should rest today. I'll come and see you another day. Then, without waiting for Zhou Xian's reply, he turned around and left quickly. Your Highness. Zhou Xian was flustered and instinctively wanted to follow him to explain. However, Rongjin suddenly turned around and frowned. Oh right, don't go out and show your face if you have nothing to do. You can still go to the academy but your face. You should wear your veil. Then he hurriedly left as if there was a ferocious beast chasing after him. Once he thought of that frightening face he felt his stomach churn. To think that I actually thought she was beautiful just now. How disgusting. Rongjin's figure quickly disappeared, and only Zhou Xian was left in the room. She stood there in a daze and laughed softly after a long time. However, there was only coldness and hatred left in her laughter. It's already so late. Why did father suddenly summon me? What happened? Rongjin asked Song Yuan as he walked out of Tingfeng Garden quickly. Your Highness, I don't know either. Eunuch Min came personally. It seems like it's urgent. As he spoke, Rongjin looked up and indeed saw Eunuch Min's figure. He was even more confused. What exactly happened that made Eunuch Min come so late? Eunuch Min anxiously paced back and forth. When he saw Rongjin from afar he immediately went forward. Oh, Your Highness, you're finally out. His Majesty is waiting for you. Let's go quickly. Rongjin knitted his brows. Why the rush? Eunuch Min, what exactly happened? Your Highness, I don't know about this either. It's just that the third prince went to the palace in the afternoon and talked to His Majesty in the imperial study for a long time. After the third prince left, His Majesty ordered you to quickly enter the palace. Eunuch Min hesitated and touched the horsetail whisk in his arms. Your Highness, there's something I need to tell you. His Majesty is in a fit of anger right now. When you arrive you must be careful. Angry? Rongjin knitted his brows even tighter. Is it related to Rongjio? However, I didn't have much contact with Rongjio during this period. Why is it related to him? Thank you, Eunuch Min. Rongjin did not ask further and entered the palace with Eunuch Min. The midsummer night was especially hot. Rongjin was drenched in sweat when he rushed to the imperial study. However, when he entered and saw his father's cold expression, his heart instantly turned cold. Imperial father. Emperor Zhou suddenly raised his hand and threw the inkstone on the table at Rongjin. Rongjin didn't dare to dodge and took it head-on. A wound immediately appeared on his forehead and blood gushed out. He knew something was wrong and immediately knelt down. Imperial father, if you want to teach this son a lesson, this son will accept it. But can you tell me why exactly? Don't you know what you've done? Emperor Zhou rudely interrupted him and his face turned green. This was Rongjin's first time seeing him like this and his heart kept sinking. What was going on? Rongjin, you're already the crown prince. Why are you still doing this to your brothers? Are you really that intolerant of others? Emperor Zhou hollered. Rongjin suddenly recovered his senses and was shocked. Could it be that Imperial father knows that I sent someone to investigate Rongjio? I know that Rongjiu has many military achievements and can go against you. You don't like him. But he's your brother after all, and you're already the crown prince. How can you still be so narrow-minded? Rongjin was dazed. Rongjiu? That's not right. The people I sent were clearly imperial, father. I didn't. You still dare to deny it. Your men have already been detained by Rongjiu. Rongjin's remaining words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't say them. If it weren't for the fact that he's been in the military for many years and is alert enough, I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Emperor Zhaowen sighed heavily. You disappoint me too much. Rongjin felt as if he was struck by lightning and his heart was in turmoil. That's not right. My men went for Rongxiu and didn't do anything to Rongjiu. There must be a problem here. He was indeed afraid of Rongjiu, but he didn't even want to do anything. This was because he clearly knew that Rongjiu's military achievements overshadowed the emperor's, and his father had long had this thought. His father made him stay in the imperial city for so long because he wanted to weaken Rongjiu's control over the Northwest Army. I can just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Why would I find trouble for no reason? Could it be that Rongxiu and Rongjiu teamed up? Thinking of this, Rongjin's face was especially ugly. In Emperor Zhaowen's eyes, this change in expression naturally meant that Rongjin admitted to it. Brothers killing each other. You've really grown up. Rongjin couldn't refute or say a single word. Since Rongjiu dared to come here to complain, he must have solid evidence. If he denied it and continued investigating, it would only bring him trouble. Besides, he couldn't say that he originally went for Rongxiu. The consequences would be even worse. After much thought, Rongjin could only clench his teeth and admit it. I know my mistake. I just wanted to test Rongjiu's abilities and I didn't have any murderous intentions. Father, please understand. However, I was rash and made a big mistake. Father, please punish me. Emperor Zhaowen stared at him solemnly. Cultivation time always passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Chu Luiyue had already stayed in the academy for 5 days. In these few days she gradually understood the various classes in the academy and started to get used to life in the academy. Actually, most of the students chose their own classes and the teachers wouldn't force them. In addition, Chu Luiyue cultivated a few classes so she had more freedom when it came to time. Other than going to Jiuyou Tower to cultivate for 2 hours every day and occasionally attending a few classes, Chu Luiyue spent most of her time cultivating in her own residence. After the first day, such a situation didn't happen in Jiuyou Tower again. However, Chu Luiyue still felt that there was a pair of eyes secretly staring at her. After serious consideration, she didn't ask Elder Yi about this matter. She felt that this had something to do with the mysterious water droplet in her body. However, Rongxiu didn't come again. Chu Luiyue finally returned to her bed to rest, but she could still smell the faint fragrance of peach blossoms, which made her think of this person from time to time. Chu Luiyue originally wanted to move next door, but when she thought of how she always seemed to sleep exceptionally well with this faint aura around, she could only give up on the idea. On this day, Chu Luiyue entered Jiuyou Tower to cultivate as usual and left after 2 hours. When she came out, she coincidentally bumped into Mu Hongyu. Chu Luiyue nodded and greeted her, but she didn't expect Mu Hongyu to follow her. I heard that you come here to cultivate every day? Chu Luiyue chuckled. You always hear a lot of news. Really? You're so extravagant? Mu Hongyu gasped and she couldn't hide the envy in her eyes. That's true. You have 38 hours. Even if you come here every day, you can last for more than half a month. Unlike me, who works so hard to earn 4 hours and I have to use it sparingly. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. How do you earn this time? You don't know? That's true. You just came to the academy, so you naturally don't know much about this. There are many ways to earn time for cultivation. I'll tell you slowly in the future. However, I have to ask you something first. The demonic beast tide is coming. Who are you in the same group as? Chapter 115. Fiend title? Chu Luiyue was confused. You don't know about this? Every year at the end of August there will be a fiend title in Wanling Mountain. Countless fiends will fight to go there and many of them are mid-stage fiends. If you're lucky, there will be high-level fiends. This is a great opportunity to hunt fiends, so the elders from the academy will lead the team there every year. The students are free to form teams. After entering Wanling Mountain, everyone will move in groups. The level of fiends you can hunt will depend on your own abilities. Mu Hongyu explained. Chu Liyue suddenly understood. The original owner seemed to have a vague impression of this because the crown prince, Rong Jin, personally hunted a 4th-grade fiend, a red-eyed fire leopard, during the fiend title a year ago. When this matter spread, Rong Jin was in the limelight for a while. Everyone knew that the crown prince was very powerful and could even hunt such a ferocious beast personally. One had to know that 1st-grade to 3rd-grade fiends were considered low-level fiends. 4th-grade to 6th-grade fiends were intermediate-level fiends. As for the legendary 9th-grade fiends, they were considered high-level fiends that only existed in rumors. Even though a 4th-grade fiend was only 1 grade higher than a 3rd-grade fiend, the difference was like night and day. However, Chu Liyue had been busy cultivating these few days, so she did not pay much attention to this matter. Mu Hongyu told her this. "You want to team up with me?" asked Chu Liyue. "Yes." Mu Hongyu didn't hide anything and nodded graciously. "You're the top warrior and a Xian master. You're considered one of the most capable students in our batch. Who else can I look for but you? But don't worry, I won't drag you down. I should be able to break through and become a stage 4 warrior in half a month." Chu Liyue was not worried about this. During the previous midterm assessment, Mu Hongyu lost to Gu Mingfeng and came in 3rd place. With this kind of ability, she was definitely considered an expert. "Sure, let's move together then." Mu Hongyu invited him so warmly that he had no reason to refuse. The fact that Chu Liyue agreed so readily surprised Mu Hongyu. You really agreed?" "That's right. What's wrong with that?" "That's not it. It's just that those Xian masters have always looked down on us martial artists. We also don't like them, so we rarely team up with them. You're considered a member of the Xian cultivator team now. Won't they criticize you if you team up with me like this?" Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Chu Liyue could not help but laugh. This kind of struggle was really childish. In a world where strength reigns supreme, why would they care about such things? "It's fine." Mu Hongyu smiled when she saw how confident she was. Her almond-shaped eyes were bright and dazzling. "Good. It's settled then." "Hey, if you have other people who want to team up with you, you can also pull them over. 5 people in a group, we still need 3 more people." Chu Liyue thought for a moment. "It's up to you." She was not very familiar with these people, so she might as well leave it to Mu Hongyu. When Mu Hongyu heard this, she immediately felt that Chu Liyue trusted her a lot and had a better impression of her. There was a meditation class in the afternoon. When Chu Liyue went over, she saw Gu Mingzhu standing outside the door. Seeing her walk over, Gu Mingzhu's expression instantly darkened. Chu Liyue walked over unhurriedly. "Second Miss Gu, did you bring those 2 Xian formation diagrams today?" Gu Mingzhu's expression turned even uglier. She took out 2 Xian formation diagrams from her sleeves and threw them at Chu Liyue. "Isn't it just Xian formation diagrams? What's there to rush? I'll give them to you." Chu Liyue caught the items lightly and opened them to take a look. After confirming that they were level 5 Xian formation diagrams, she curled her lips and said with a smile. "Second Miss Gu also said that now that I've left the Chu family, my status is indeed not that high. 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams are very precious, so I naturally value them. Unlike second Miss Gu, who can easily take out this thing as a wager." Gu Mingzhu was so angry that her face turned pale. She did not dare to tell the patriarch about this. Even if she was very favored in the Gu family, the patriarch would definitely not forgive her if he knew. However, Chu Liyue urged her every day when she saw her and even said that if she did not give them to her, she would personally go to the Gu family to ask for them. How could Gu Mingzhu allow her to torment her like this? She could only privately beg her mother to give them to her. Because of this, she was even severely reprimanded. Now that she saw Chu Liyue smiling so happily, she felt so sullen in her heart that she wanted to die. "Chu Liyue, I'll remember you this time. You better pray that you don't fall into my hands in the future. Otherwise you'll suffer." Chu Liyue waved the Xian formation diagrams in her hand. "Thank you for your concern, second Miss Gu. If you have any more good gifts, Liu will be very grateful." Gu Mingzhu was so angry that she almost died. Due to the fact that class was about to start and there were more and more people coming, she could only temporarily suppress her anger. She glared fiercely at Chu Liyue and turned to enter the room. Chu Liyue did not care and followed her in. Everyone in the room was in groups of 3 to 5 and seemed to be discussing something. Chu Liwei had just sat down in her seat when she saw Xiang waving at her. Hey Death Change, Chu Liwei. Why don't you team up with us for the Devil Beast Tide? So everyone was talking about this. Chu Liwei shook her head. I've already agreed to team up with someone else. Thank you for your kindness. What? Someone already made a move first? Who is it? Xiang was unhappy when he heard this. Mu Hongyu. Xiang was stunned for a moment and bitterly lamented. Mu Hongyu, that Chao Tianjiao. Are you kidding me? You, me, and my brother will be the top 3 Xian masters. We'll definitely be invincible. Why are you with her? Also, she's a warrior. I'm a warrior too. Chu Liwei glanced at him. Is there a rule that says warriors and Xian masters can't team up together? Xiang was speechless. No, but everything was planned well, but why was Mu Hongyu so fast? We've already gathered 4 people and you're the only one left. If you don't come, what are we going to do? Chu Liwei shook her head inwardly when she heard this. If it was just Xiang and Si Ting, she could discuss it with Mu Hongyu. But it would be troublesome if there were 4 people. Also, she did not want to have too much contact with Si Ting, so this was good. I promised Mu Hongyu that I can't go back on my word. Sorry. Chu Liwei took out the chessboard after she finished speaking. It was obvious that she had no intention of continuing the conversation. Xiang glanced at Si Ting dejectedly. Si Ting's expression did not change. If that's the case, let's find someone else. Xiang sighed inwardly. He could tell that his brother was interested in Chu Liwei. He wanted to use the magical beast tide to give his brother a chance. Unfortunately, Si Ting, can I join you guys? I haven't teamed up with anyone yet. Gu Mingzhu had been listening to their conversation. Seeing this opportunity, she immediately spoke up and looked at Si Ting hopefully. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 116. Xiang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. No. With Gu Mingzhu's temper, it would be very troublesome to team up with her. Moreover, couldn't she tell that Big Brother was not interested in her at all? Gu Mingzhu felt her face burning after being rejected so directly in front of everyone. She looked at Si Ting pitifully, but Si Ting did not even look at her. His expression was indifferent, as if he did not care at all. Gu Mingzhu felt even more upset. She felt a fire surging in her chest, burning her whole body. She bit her lower lip and suppressed her urge to fly into a rage. However, his jealousy and hatred toward Chu Liwei increased by another level. Why did they take the initiative to invite Chu Liwei? But she was rejected when she took the initiative to invite him. Chu Liwei threw away the things that he wished for like a pair of worn-out shoes. She did not believe that Chu Liwei could continue to be so smug. Dong Fangqing quickly walked in. The discussions in the room immediately became much quieter. Dong Fangqing chuckled as he looked at everyone. It seems like all of you are looking forward to the Fiend Tide. There is still half a month to go and you are already itching to take action? Teacher Dongfang, it is rumored that high-level fiends will appear during the Fiend Tide. Is that true? A student asked curiously. Dongfang Qing stroked his beard. During the Fiend Tide, hundreds and thousands of fiends will gather at Wanling Mountain. If you are lucky, you can indeed see a high-level fiend. The moment he said that, many students' eyes lit up. They could not hide the excitement in their eyes. If cultivators can successfully hunt fiends, it will undoubtedly increase their combat power greatly. The higher the level of the fiend, the greater the help. Especially for Xian masters like us, whose physical strength is slightly weaker, if we have a fiend we will not have to worry. Xian masters had a higher status than warriors, but they also had a weakness. They were not good at close combat. Especially when setting up Xian formations, they needed time and energy. At this time, if they had a fiend's help, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Therefore, compared to martial artists, mystic cultivators were more interested in fiend beasts. Some of you already have your own fiends, but most of you do not. You can take this opportunity to find a suitable one. If you have magical beasts, you can also give it a try. Teacher Dongfang, can't a cultivator only have one magical beast? Not bad. Magic beasts were ruthless, but they were also proud. They would never serve the same master. If you want to hunt new magical beasts, you have to release or kill the previous magical beast. However, once a magical beast recognized a human as its master, its body would be tainted with the scent of the human. Even if it returned, it would be rejected by its own kind. Therefore, in most cases, once a magical beast is abandoned by its master, only death awaits it. Everyone nodded in understanding. Even though this magical beast is ferocious, it seems to have some pride. Dongfang Qing sighed. Yes. Once a magical beast recognized a master, it would be forever loyal, living and dying with its master. Therefore, when the time comes for you to hunt magical beasts, you must be extremely cautious and choose carefully. The students were all very excited. Yes. Chu Liwei looked at the chessboard in front of him and suddenly stopped. Live and die together with master. So after she died, alright, take advantage of these 10 days to cultivate diligently. You will only be able to hunt higher-level magical beasts when your strength increases. Today's test is on the water formation. Dongfang Qing waved his hand and the chess pieces flew out, forming a new pattern on the chessboard. Chu Liwei lowered his eyes and collected his thoughts. During this lesson, Chu Liwei was a little absent-minded. Even though his eyes were fixed on the chessboard, many scenes kept appearing in his mind. In her previous life as the Heavenly Princess, she naturally had her own magical beast. However, when she died, it happened to be on the verge of a breakthrough and fell into a deep slumber. At that time, she was betrayed and was in a desperate situation, so she could only choose to leave. However, before she took action, she had already placed it in place. She didn't know what the situation was like after that. Country Yaochen was extremely far away from the Tianling dynasty. Given her current status and strength, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for her to obtain any information, let alone return. She was afraid that she could only wait for the so-called envoy to come and find out the truth. Chu Liwei, haven't you solved it yet? More than 2 hours later, Xiang solved the Xian formation. When he turned around, he realized that Chu Liwei was still staring at the chessboard in front of him motionlessly. The previous few times she solved the Xian formation after Si Ting passed. Everyone was shocked and doubtful at the beginning, but now they were used to it. They didn't expect him to be second this time. He was ranked in front of Chu Liwei. Chu Liwei snapped out of his daze. At this moment, Gu Mingzhu also solved the Xian formation, and the chess pieces fell into the chess jar. She glanced at Chu Liwei and sneered. Hey. The long road reveals the horse's strength. Whether you are really capable or not, you will know in time. Chu Liwei couldn't be bothered with her sarcastic attitude. He lowered his head and finally started to place his chess pieces. Her movements were very fast and smooth, as if she didn't need to think at all. After a few steps, the Xian formation was solved. Then, without looking at the surprised looks of the people around her, she stood up. Miss Dongfang, can I leave after class? Yes, of course. Tomorrow is a holiday, so you can go home earlier today. Dongfang Qing could also tell that something was wrong with Chu Liwei, so he quickly agreed. Chu Liwei thanked him and left. Gu Mingzhu said coldly. What is there to be proud of? Si Ting raised his eyes to take a look, but all he saw was the corner of her clothes fluttering away. What is wrong with her? In his impression, Chu Liwei was always calm and composed, as if nothing could shake her. To be able to cut ties with the Chu family so easily and establish her own family, Chu Liwei was definitely more powerful than she looked. This was the first time he saw her lose her composure. Si Ting turned around and looked at the chessboard that was already set up. He frowned slightly. If he remembered correctly, Chu Liwei seemed to have only taken one look and placed a chess piece. Tianlu Academy had a holiday once every 5 days. Chu Liwei packed up and went home. Chu Ning was not back yet, so Chu Liwei had dinner by herself and rested in her room. Just as she lay down on the wooden chair, a strange sound came from outside the window. Chu Liwei looked over and saw a huge white head pushing open the window and peeking in. A pair of icy blue eyes stared straight at her. Shua. Chu Liwei laughed as she looked at it. The window was not big and its head took up almost half of it. Shua, why are you here? With that, Chu Liwei walked over. Shua put its paws on her hand and looked at her pitifully. God knows how busy it had been outside these few days. She missed it so much. Come in quickly. Chu Liwei patted its head and took a step back. Shua was so excited that it wanted to rush in. Suddenly, the sound of a wooden board breaking was heard. It immediately paused and its expression was a little stiff. Chu Luiyue looked around and saw that the edge of the window had cracked. Her eyes twitched. Stuck. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 117. Shueishui looked at Chu Luiyue blankly. It didn't know what to do. Its huge head was stuck in the window. It looked very funny. It's already broken anyway. Just come in. Chu Luiyue held her forehead. She waved at it, annoyed and amused at the same time. With Shueishui's size, it was already difficult for it to come in through the window. In addition, its physical strength was extremely strong. It only needed to move a little to destroy the wooden board. Seeing that Chu Luiyue wasn't angry, Shueishui was relieved. It jumped into Chu Luiyue's arms. Chu Luiyue caught it and steadied herself with great difficulty. The soft and fluffy body in her arms made Chu Luiyue's originally depressed mood turn for the better. She weighed Shueishui in her arms and was a little surprised. Shueishui, you seem to have lost weight? Compared to the first time they met, it seemed to be a little smaller. Shueishui rubbed against her face affectionately. Chu Luiyue kept moving back from the itch. All right. Shueishui, stop fooling around. It's ticklish. Shueishui pestered her for a long time before it stopped. It lay down by her feet obediently. Its tail kept wagging, looking very obedient. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but smile. If others saw this scene, they would probably think that Shueishui was her magical beast. Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue's mood became a little strange. It was strange. Rong Xiu was Shueishui's master, but it seemed to be very close to her. From the first time they met until now, Chu Luiyue had an inexplicable sense of closeness to Shueishui. It was as if she felt from the bottom of her heart that it wouldn't hurt her. Magical beasts were fierce, especially high-level magical beasts like this. They were extremely proud. Logically speaking, they wouldn't be polite to anyone other than their master. But Shueishui, I haven't seen you recently. Where have you been, Chu Luiyue stroked its fur and asked casually. Shueishui closed its eyes comfortably. When its master was here, when had it ever enjoyed such pleasure? It wasn't a waste that it had been running around outside for the past few days. Chu Luiyue didn't mind seeing Shueishui enjoying herself as if she didn't hear him at all. At this moment, with Shueishui by her side, her loneliness was dispelled. But then again, you and your master are very similar. Shueishui moved and opened an eye to glance at her. Chu Luiyue tapped its wet and rough nose with a slender white finger. They all like to barge into other people's houses in the middle of the night. Shueishui closed her eyes guiltily and rubbed her head against Chu Luiyue's palm. Chu Luiyue sighed inwardly. His shameless look was even more like, You're back? Chu Ning's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Chu Luiyue happily got up to open the door, but Shueishui was faster than her. With a move of her body, she jumped out of the window again. The crack on the already broken window became even bigger. Chu Luiyue looked at her speechlessly. She didn't do anything, so why was Shueishui so guilty? She opened the door and saw Chu Ning, who she hadn't seen for a few days. At this moment he was wearing the black armor of the Imperial Guards and looked travel-worn. But the moment he saw Chu Luiyue, his tired eyes lit up. You're really back. Chu Luiyue blinked and acted spoiled, which was rare of her. The academy is on holiday tomorrow, so I came back directly after class today. I haven't seen you for a few days, misses you very much. Hearing his daughter's words, Chu Ning only felt that the fatigue of the past few days was swept away and he instantly felt relaxed. Father also misses you, very much. I've been too busy recently, so I didn't have time to go to the academy to see you. Chu Luiyue smiled helplessly. Father, our house is quite close to the academy, so there's no need for you to send me. But you've just taken office recently, so you must have a lot of things to deal with. Looking at you, you haven't rested well these past few days, right? As she spoke, Chu Luiyue invited Chu Ning in and poured him a cup of tea. That's right. In addition to taking over the affairs of the Imperial Guards, I also have to deal with the matter of the fourth princess. Previously, the fourth princess met with an accident at the hunting ground and her pearl of essence was shattered. His Majesty was very distressed and has been investigating these past few days. He has already punished dozens of people. Chu Luiyue faintly said, Oh. Her pearl of essence was shattered, so in the future, won't she be able to cultivate? Isn't that right? This matter caused quite a big blow to the fourth princess, and the palace is also in a state of chaos. She even said that no matter what, she must find the magical beast that injured her. Unfortunately, she was the one who chased the magical beast to the cliff that day. No one else was there at the time and they didn't even know what the magical beast looked like, so how could they find it? The fourth princess should have seen it. If she described it, it should be quite easy to find it, right? The fourth princess didn't see it clearly herself. In addition, she was too frightened to describe it clearly. Finding it is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Chu Ning sighed and did not have much hope in this matter. Chu Liwei did not care. Rongzhen was spoiled and thought that she could do whatever she wanted just because she was the princess born by the empress. Little did she know that all the love in the past would soon disappear after she became a good-for-nothing. Only a lonely and bleak future awaited her. The people in the royal family were the most ruthless. They would immediately abandon someone who was of no use to them. It was a pity that Rongzhen did not seem to realize this. Chu Liwei held his chin with one hand and asked casually, "I heard that Zhou Xian married into the Crown Prince mansion 2 days ago. That's really fast." The Crown Prince and Zhou Xian finally got what they wanted. Oh, Zhou Xian might not count. When she was thinking of ways to get close to the Crown Prince, she probably never thought of marrying him as a concubine. So many things had happened in the imperial city just a few days after she entered the academy to cultivate. Chu Ning's expression tensed up. Don't talk about the Crown Prince's matters. It wasn't easy for us to draw a clear line with the Crown Prince. We must not have anything to do with him in the future. This reaction made Chu Liwei feel a little strange. Seeing Chu Ning's cautious and vigilant look, Chu Liwei's mind raced. Something happened to the Crown Prince? Chu Ning did not expect Chu Liwei to be so smart and guessed the main point with one sentence. After thinking for a moment, he knitted his brows and sighed. This matter has too many implications. It's better if you don't ask. Anyway, be careful with your words and actions. After being called over by Emperor Zhou and learning about the matter, he was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Luckily, they had already cut ties with the Chu family and annulled their marriage agreement with the Crown Prince first. If not, even the father and daughter would be implicated. In the past he hated Rongzhen, but now he was only thankful. "Father, don't worry. I know." As Chu Liwei spoke, he was thinking about what the Crown Prince had done to make Chu Ning react this way. When she came out of the academy today, she did not hear any news. It was obvious that the palace had kept it a secret. However, the Crown Prince's situation might be precarious. As the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, Chu Ning was actually a knife in Emperor Zhou's hand. Now this knife is hanging over the Crown Prince's head? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 118. Rongzhen did not have an easy time these few days. Killing one another and fighting for power was one of the things that an emperor feared the most. Emperor Zhou had also taken his throne back then, so he was even more sensitive and suspicious about this matter. Of course, he knew that this was an unavoidable fight in the royal family, but he did not expect Rongzhen to be the first to make a move. Back then, the Emperor Emeritus delayed appointing the Crown Prince, causing Rongzhen and his brothers to kill one another. Hence, when it was his turn, he appointed the Empress's eldest son, Rongzhen, as the Crown Prince, as he was worried that the same thing would happen again. However, things did not go as he wished and Rongzhen really disappointed him. Emperor Zhou could not figure it out. Rongzhen was the Crown Prince and his status was noble. He had an advantage over the others. As long as the others did not rebel, this position would be his in the future. But why couldn't he keep it in? Emperor Zhou did not publicize this matter and ordered for the news to be sealed. Nobody was to leak it. Then he ordered Rongzhen to reflect on his mistakes in the residence and took away his right to supervise the 6 departments. Rongzhen sent the memorials that were sent to Crown Prince Mansion back to the palace overnight and placed them on the table in the imperial study. Rongzhen knew that his father did not trust him anymore. Compared to everything else, this was his greatest loss. If his father still could not trust him in the future, then Rongzhen did not dare to think too much as he knew that he was in the wrong. He could only try his best to admit his mistake and express his attitude in hopes of reducing his father's anger. This was the biggest loss he had suffered ever since he became the crown prince, but he could not take revenge on the initiator. Rong Jin felt very aggrieved, but he did not dare to vent. His father must be secretly watching him now, so what could he do? After much thought, he could only lock himself in the study and not come out for 2 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, Zhou Xian brought soup over as usual. As expected, she could not even enter the door. Zhou Xian could not keep her face straight. On the 1st day she married into Crown Prince Mansion. The Crown Prince was summoned to the palace overnight by His Majesty. After he came back, he went straight to the study and she could not even see him. In the past 3 days, the servants in the residence had said many nasty things. Many people saw that she was not favored, so their attitude was very presumptuous. Today she had to fight for herself no matter what. However, Zhou Xian knew that it would not do her any good if she forced her way in. Therefore she suppressed the humiliation in her heart and spoke to the tightly shut door. Your Highness, Chuanbei snow pear soup is here for you. Drink some when you have time. Don't tire yourself out. In addition, Minmin has a request. After resting for a period of time, Minmin's body has recovered a lot. What do you think about going back to school tomorrow? If she became the crown princess, she would naturally be too lazy to go back. But now that her appearance had been destroyed, this was the only path she could take. As long as she still had power, the crown prince would not go too far with her. Therefore, even if Chu Luiyue, whom she hated the most, was in the academy, she had to go back. After she finished speaking, Zhou Xian waited outside the door anxiously. After some time she heard Rong Jin's reply. It's fine if you want to return to the academy, but you're not allowed to live in the academy anymore. You have to return to the manor every day. Also, pay attention to your identity at all times. You definitely can't embarrass me. Zhou Xian felt as if she had been pardoned. Thank you, Your Highness. The next day, Chu Ning left in a hurry early in the morning. Chu Luiyue guessed that the crown prince's trouble this time was more serious than expected. Thinking of this, she was in a good mood and did not rest at home. Instead, she walked out of the house and went straight to Jinbao Pavilion. Once her figure appeared in Jinbao Pavilion, a sharp-eyed page boy ran to the back hall to inform Yan Gu. Yan Gu, who was busy counting the goods inside, could not be bothered anymore. He rushed to the front hall, his face full of eagerness and enthusiasm, but he did not lose his respect. Ms. Liu, what brings you here? The academy is closed today. I'm here to take a look. That's great. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. Yan Gu rubbed his hands and looked expectant, as if he would immediately give the item to Chu Luiyue as long as she said which one she liked. Chu Luiyue hurriedly waved her hands. No. Second Master Yan, you're too polite. I haven't used many of the things you gave me previously. I'm here today to ask you for a few people. Yan Gu was puzzled. You want people? What do you intend to do? Chu Luiyue's lips curled slightly. Clearing the accounts. Chu Residence Main Hall. The Great Elder sat high above. There was a stack of account books on the table beside him. In front of him stood a few people who looked like stewards. At this moment they were all looking down nervously. The room was very quiet. Only the sound of the Great Elder flipping through the account books could be heard. Every time he flipped through a book, the Great Elder's face turned uglier. By the end, his expression had completely darkened. He slammed the account books on the table. What's going on? In this half a year, not only did the shops under the Chu family not make a profit, they even made a loss. What are you doing? The stewards were so frightened that they trembled. One of them wiped the sweat off his forehead and murmured with a bitter expression, "That's right. Great Elder, we have no choice. This year's harvest is not good. We can't get back the rent from the land, and business is not good either. There really isn't much income. And the residence's expenses have always been huge. That's why there's less income and more expenditure, resulting in a huge loss. Weren't there a few shops that were making a profit before? Why aren't there any accounts for those shops?" The Great Elder flipped through the account books in frustration. The stewards looked at each other in dismay, and their voices became even quieter. "Great Elder, have you forgotten? Those shops were bestowed to Chu Ning by the clan head back then. They were all written in his name. After he left the Chu family, he sent people to take back those shops." The Great Elder was shocked. Only now did he remember this matter. Chu Ning was very favored in the Chu family back then. He was almost publicly acknowledged as the next clan head, so he had a lot of assets under his name. After his downfall, although he was in a terrible situation and had those shops taken away, the names on the deeds were still the same. After Chu Ning became the commander of the Imperial Guards, it was naturally not a problem for him to take back those shops. They didn't have the courage to confront the current Chu Ning head-on. The Great Elder was so angry that he almost tore the account books to shreds. If this continued, the Chu family's future would be even worse. Great Elder Chu Liwei is here. At this moment, a manservant suddenly ran in with a panicked expression. Everyone thought that they had heard wrongly. Hadn't Chu Liwei severed ties with the Chu family? How dare she come here? The Great Elder narrowed his eyes. It's really her. Yes, it's her. The manservant wanted to cry but had no tears. She even brought a few people with her. They're right outside the gate right now. She really ate a bear's heart and leopard's guts. The Great Elder slammed the table and stood up. She actually has the face to come to our Chu family again. I'd like to see what she's up to this time. Even if she knelt down and begged him, he wouldn't be soft-hearted. The manservant panted heavily and spoke with difficulty. Great Elder Chu Liwei said what? She said that she's here to collect her debt today. Love Network provided a better reading experience. Chapter 119. She wants to settle the debt? The first elder was so angry that he laughed. Why would she want to settle the debt? The servant took a step back in fear. She said that you haven't given her the family property that you promised to give her when you signed the separation agreement. Also, she wants to take away the dowry that her mother brought with her today. The first elder's heart skipped a beat. He had almost forgotten about this matter. That day he was nearly driven mad by Chu Liwei. He didn't even check the amount carefully before signing the agreement. Now that he thought about it, it was a huge sum of money. Just the dowry that Chu Liue's mother brought with her back then was already extremely generous. If he were to return it all to Chu Liwei, it would be no different from causing a huge loss to the Chu clan. The first elder paced around in frustration. He glanced at the scattered account books on the table and his mood worsened. The Chu clan was currently struggling to make ends meet. If they were to take out this sum of money, it would only make things worse. How could Chu Liwei be so thick-skinned as to come knocking on our door to ask for it? First elder, you should hurry up and take a look. Chu Liwei said that if they don't get the money today, they won't leave. Right now they've already blocked the entrance. It's useless. The first elder cursed angrily as he strode out of the room. Could a mere Chu Liwei really tear down the Chu clan? The first elder rushed to the entrance, and when he saw the scene before him, he nearly fainted from anger. Chu Liwei was standing in front of the main entrance, and there were already quite a few people gathered around her to watch the commotion. She was speaking to the people around her with a sorrowful expression. That's right. When I was very young, my mother passed away, leaving only my father and I to rely on each other. I'm sure you all know that back then my father was injured in order to save the emperor and couldn't continue cultivating. The Chu clan said that we didn't have the energy to take care of my mother's dowry, so they told us to hand it over to Lu Yao for safekeeping. After so many years, my father and I have finally made it. I don't think that the other things are important, but the dowry belongs to my mother. It's the last thing my mother left me. If I don't come back, I won't be able to rest easy. Everyone nodded as they listened. Chu Ning and Chu Liwei were also considered celebrities in the capital. People often talked about them in private, so they more or less knew that Chu Liwei was telling the truth. In fact, everyone knew that the Chu family was doing this because they wanted to seize Chu Liue's mother's dowry. Although the Chu clan appeared to be wealthy, they were actually very greedy. Yes. This dowry is yours, no one else can touch it. You must come back. Exactly. In any case, the Chu clan is one of the 4 great clans. If they really refused to return the item to you, wouldn't that be too much? That's true. If the Chu clan really did that, wouldn't they be throwing away their face? The great elder's face turned ashen when he heard this. He shouted angrily, Chu Liwei, what are you doing? Chu Liwei lifted his eyes and glanced at him lazily. Oh, great elder Chu, don't you know what I'm doing here? Previously, you agreed to split the family and said that you would send over the items that belonged to me and my father. However, I waited and waited but no one came. Not even a shadow of the item was seen. I thought that you probably have a lot of things to do so you don't have time to deal with these small matters. That's why I specially brought people over this time. Chu Liwei raised his hand and pointed at the people behind him. These two are the stewards of Jinbao Pavilion. They are the best at checking accounts. In a while they will help you count the items. There will be no mistakes. These four are the servants of Jinbao Pavilion. They are very strong and can help move the items away. There's no need to trouble your Chu clan. Great Elder Chu, what do you think? The Great Elder was so angry that he couldn't speak. This Chu Liwei actually planned everything. This time he brought people to block the door with the intention of taking away all the items. It seemed that if he didn't agree he would directly rob them. You impudent! This is the Chu clan, not a place where you can behave atrociously. Chu Liwei replied with a question. How am I impudent? I'm only here to take back what belongs to me and my father. Can't I do that? Or is Great Elder Chu planning to go back on his word? There were many witnesses last time and this time. It's not very good for you to do this, is it? The smile on his face faded a little. Of course I know that this is the Chu clan. If you didn't keep your promise, why would I come here? I'm afraid that if I come here too many times, it will dirty my eyes. Chu Liwei, how can you say that? Lu Yao, who had rushed over after hearing the news, immediately reprimanded him. A trace of resentment flashed through her eyes. Looking at this face now, he couldn't help but think of his daughter's disfigured appearance and that despicable wedding. Although you have no relationship with the Chu clan now, everyone here is still your elder. Have you lost your manners after leaving the Chu clan? Lu Yao still had a shred of rationality left. She didn't curse out loud. She knew that with so many people watching it was better to use a soft approach. However, Chu Liwei didn't fall for her trick. He couldn't even be bothered to brush her off. Lu Yao, it's good that you're here. My mother's dowry is with you. Even if you want to check it, this period of time is enough for you to sort it out. Since I've personally come here today, then return them all to me. Or, are you unwilling to hand it over? In front of so many people, Lu Yao naturally couldn't deny it. She could only force a smile. How is that possible? Not to mention the Chu clan's wealth, even I, Lu Yao, was born in the Lu clan. How could I be interested in your things? That's good. Chu Liwei interrupted her and took out a list from his sleeve. This is the list of dowry my mother brought with her when she married into the Chu clan. Later I'll hand it over to Steward Wu and Steward Zhang to check. These are the last things my mother left behind. If even half of it is missing, I won't let this matter rest. As he spoke, Chu Liwei passed the list to the two people behind him. Lu Yao was dumbfounded. That list was something from more than 10 years ago. How could Chu Liwei have it? She felt like something was stuck in her throat. Her back was covered in cold sweat. All these years she had indeed touched those things. She originally thought that Tu Ning and Chu Liwei would never have a chance to make a name for themselves in this lifetime. Naturally, she planned to take those things for herself. Who would have thought that they would one day make a comeback? Now she actually wanted to check carefully. What should she do? Chu Liwei saw her expression. How could he not know what she was planning? He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. If she didn't skin the entire Chu clan alive today, they wouldn't know that she, Chu Liwei, wasn't someone to be trifled with. Xiaowen, bring me a chair. Chu Liwei ordered. A burly youth behind him immediately responded. He quickly walked to the side of the carriage and brought out a red sandalwood chair. He placed it behind Chu Liwei. Chu Liwei sat down casually and leisurely. First Elder Chu Luyao, hurry up. There are so many things and I only have one day off today. I have to count them quickly. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 120. If not for the fact that there were so many people watching, First Elder would have rushed over to teach Chu Liwei a lesson himself. Such an arrogant look really made people fly into a rage. Lu Yao, all these years, you have been in charge of the family's finances. Go and check the list with them. Give them what they deserve and don't touch what they don't deserve. Lu Yao was shocked by this shout. Seeing the anger on First Elder's face, she subconsciously agreed. Yes. First Elder still felt that it wasn't enough. He shouted at the other stewards. And the few of you go and watch together. We can't make any mistakes in this account. The few of them hurriedly agreed. Lu Yao's body was tense and her footsteps were heavy. However, she knew that she had to do it even if she didn't want to. On the other side, Steward Wu and the other steward had already set up a formation and started to check the items according to the list. A pair of 8 colored glass lamps, 2 sets of white jade December tokens, a pair of gilded horse pots, 2 painted Kong Ho. Lu Yao had no choice but to grit her teeth. "Didn't you hear? Go and get the items from the storeroom." The servants responded and hurried over. When they took out the items one by one, the people Chu Liyue brought over would immediately go forward and take the items. After checking carefully, they would put them back in the carriage. Chu Liyue smiled. These are the most capable people in Zhenbao Pavilion. Although their positions aren't high, they are the best at identifying treasures. They will know whether it's real or fake with one look. Wouldn't it be more convenient for everyone if they check carefully like this? This sentence shattered the last trace of hope in Lu Yao's heart. She closed her eyes and accepted her fate. Chu Liyue was going to go against them to the end today. In a tea house not far from the Chu residence, someone saw this scene clearly. His temper is still the same as before. A low laugh came from behind the beaded curtain. "Did you get these people from your place?" When Yengu heard this, he bowed again and said respectfully, "Yes, First Master. Madam came to Zhenbao Pavilion early this morning and said that she wanted to borrow some people. I didn't expect." At that time he was still very puzzled. He didn't know why Chu Liyue needed a steward to look after the accounts. Who would have thought that the steward would come to cause trouble for the Chu family? Yengu could be considered to have seen many things, but this was the first time he had seen such a situation. Chu Liyue wasn't going to collect debts at all. Most importantly, this request was reasonable and couldn't be denied. The Chu clan had many people. If Chu Liyue came alone, he would definitely be defeated. Therefore, she deliberately found a few people and exposed the matter in front of everyone. This way, the Chu family would have no choice but to do as she said. After all, the Chu family still cared about their reputation in the capital. "You did a good job." Hearing the praise in the first master's tone, Yengu was flattered. He had followed the big master for so many years, but he had rarely heard such praise. Today he had only transferred a few people to Chu Liyue, and the first master was so happy. He had really made a big profit. "First master, you flatter me. I really didn't do much in this matter. Everything was madam's idea." The person behind the beaded curtain seemed to shake his head and smiled. Naturally, only she could think of such an idea, and only she could do it in the most straightforward way. If it were someone else, who would dare to go against the Chu family alone? Yengu thought for a while and couldn't help but say, "First master, madam doesn't seem to be very clear about your identity, and she doesn't know what you have done for her. Do you want to? When it's time for her to know, she will naturally know. You just have to do your own thing well." Yengu lowered his head. "Yes." In front of the Chu family's main gate, Steward Wu and the steward were still going through the list. "This pair of half-moon feather glasses is fake. And this bamboo jade flute is also fake." The people Chu Liyue brought over were very efficient. As they moved the items, they didn't forget to distinguish the real from the fake. They also picked out the fake items and put them aside. Every fake item that was taken out was equivalent to a slap to Lu Yao's face. The Chu family was also embarrassed. Some of them couldn't help but look at Lu Yao with resentment. Who would have thought that Lu Yao, the head of the household, would be so arrogant as to fill her own pockets? If they hadn't checked these items today, they wouldn't have known that Lu Yao had done so much to the Chu family's assets. And these were only the dowry left behind by Chu Liyue's mother. There were so many assets in the residence. Who knew how much more she had embezzled? Sensing these gazes, Lu Yao's face quickly turned pale. Her entire body swayed like a leaf in a storm, about to be blown away at any time. If possible, she really wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. Every minute and every second of standing here was incomparably torturous. Chu Liyue held his chin with one hand and glanced at the fake items that were taken out. He seemed to be smiling. "It seems like your family has been doing well all these years. I was wondering why Chu Xianmin was so generous to spend 200,000 silver taels for a random set of jewelry. Red chalcedony items aren't something that ordinary people can afford." Lu Yao wanted to tear Chu Liyue's mouth apart. Chu Liyue clearly set a trap for Minmin, yet she still had the cheek to say it. She even twisted the truth. But before she could speak, she felt the surrounding Chu family members' gazes become even more resentful. Her heart sank. She knew that they had already believed Chu Liyue's words. So many fake items were taken out. How could they still believe her? Even if Chu Liyue didn't say anything, they would probably want to take her life right now. Time passed slowly. Chu Liyue was very relaxed as he sat on the chair and watched. In between, shopkeeper Wu even specially served her tea and exquisite snacks so that she wouldn't starve. Chu Liyue followed all the good advice. Instead of saying that she was here to ask for money, she might as well say that she was here to take her life. It wasn't until noon that the list of dowries was taken care of. After that, Chu Liyue requested to split the assets according to the contract that day and forcefully took away a lot of silver taels from the Chu family. When the silver taels were moved onto the horse carriage, even the strong-willed first elder couldn't help but feel heartache. The few managers looked at it and felt even more heartache when they thought of the messy account books. The surrounding crowd was already stunned when they saw so many treasures. I didn't expect Chu Liyue's mother to bring such a generous dowry when she married into the Chu family. Rumor has it that Chu Liyue and Chu Ning had a hard time in the Chu family. Sometimes their food and clothes couldn't even compare to the servants. Selling some of these treasures should be enough for them to survive, right? Chu Ning and his wife are deeply in love. I think he's unwilling to sell them. Besides, these things are in someone else's possession. I'm afraid he hasn't seen them before, let alone sell them. That's true. The Chu family really spent a lot of money this time. The horse carriage made several trips and finally took away all the treasures. In front of the door there were only the fake goods that were kicked out. It was especially awkward. Chu Liyue stood up and lazily rubbed her shoulders. He was really tired after sitting for so long. Alright, that's all for today. First Elder Chu's eyelids twitched. What did she mean? She's coming again? Chu Liyue seemed to have seen through his thoughts and waved her hand casually. Don't worry, I won't be coming again. However, shopkeeper Wu has already taken note of these fake goods. Please make up for it in the future. You can send it to my house or I'll send someone to pick it up. First Elder couldn't hide his anger and looked at Lu Yao. This is what you've done in the past few years as the head of the family. You'll have to fill this hole yourself. Lu Yao's body swayed. Chu Liyue smiled meaningfully. Why are you angry, First Elder Chu? It's just some small things. Even if the Chu family doesn't want to take them, the Lu family's wealth is comparable to that of a country. Isn't this a piece of cake? Don't you think so, Lu Yao? The best reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 121. Lu Yao could not say anything. She was just a concubine's daughter in the Lu family and did not have a high status. She thought that their lives would be much better after Chu Xianmin became the crown princess. Who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Chu Liyue turned around. Let's go. First Elder suppressed the anger in his heart. Close the door. When everyone in the Chu family returned to the residence, he took a deep breath and shouted, Go. Inform all the elders in the Chu family. Tell them to come to the main hall. I think it's time to settle the score with the Chu family today. After he finished speaking, he did not forget to look at Lu Yao, who was in a daze. Especially Chu Yan. Get him here as well. Yes. Lu Yao's legs turned to jelly as she knelt on the ground. Her face was as pale as a ghost. At Tianlu Academy, have you heard? Chu Liyue went to the Chu family to cause trouble again yesterday. The entire Chu family is in a mess now. Why did I hear that Chu Liyue only went to take back the things that belonged to her and her father, including her mother's dowry? Logically speaking, this shouldn't be a big deal, right? Hey, it's nothing. The Chu family doesn't think so. Do you know how many treasures and silver Chu Liyue took from the Chu family yesterday? She took away a layer of the Chu family's flesh. If you ask me, this Chu Liyue is really ruthless. After all, the Chu family gave birth to her and raised her. Now that she has made a name for herself, she turned her back on them and even took away so many things from the Chu family. The Chu family's status as one of the 4 major families was already precarious. I'm afraid that this is one disaster after another. It's better not to provoke such a person. The students who had rested for the day returned to the academy today. They formed groups of 3 to 5 and discussed animatedly. This farce had caused too much of a commotion. It was hard for them not to know. What are you talking about? A crisp female voice rang out, interrupting their whispers. They turned around and saw Mu Hongyu. Seeing that it was her, most of them were fearful. Mu Hongyu's temper was fierce and she had strength. She was really difficult to deal with. Most importantly, she had a powerful background. She was the only daughter of Lord Pingjiang, the true Princess Yongping. Even though she wasn't a princess, her status was equally noble. Why aren't you saying anything? Weren't you guys talking happily just now? Mu Hongyu stepped forward and swept her eyes over the crowd with interest. Although she was smiling, everyone could hear the threat in her tone. Hongyu, we were just chatting in private. We didn't say anything. That's right. Mu Hongyu crossed her arms and raised her chin. Her voice was crisp. I heard everything you said just now very clearly. Let me tell you, Chu Luiwei is Mu Hongyu's friend. If I hear anyone bad-mouthing her again, don't blame me for being rude. It was quiet all around. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't expect Mu Hongyu to say something like that. Friend? When did she become friends with Chu Luiwei? Chu Luiwei, who had just walked over, happened to hear what she said. She stopped in her tracks and looked at Mu Hongyu, who was not far away, in surprise. Actually, they had only spoken twice, but Mu Hongyu was willing to stand up for her. Chu Luiwei's heart felt like it was being rubbed by something. Hongyu. Mu Hongyu finally saw Chu Luiwei behind the crowd. The cold expression on her face faded, and she waved at her with her almond-shaped eyes. Chu Luiwei walked over and didn't seem to notice the awkward atmosphere. She smiled and said, "Why are you standing here? Aren't you about to break through? You should hurry up and cultivate in Juyo Tower." Mu Hongyu snorted. "They're talking bad about you." Chu Luiwei shook her head and smiled nonchalantly. "That's nothing. Don't worry about it. I just collected a debt yesterday and I have a lot of money now. I'll bring you to Phoenix Restaurant for drinks another day. You didn't come the last time, right?" Mu Hongyu got excited at the mention of Phoenix Restaurant. She hurried over to Chu Luiwei. "Really? I really like their crystal prawn dumplings. But I can only go there once a month with my allowance." Chu Luiwei laughed. It seemed like Mu Hongyu was a foodie. "Of course it's true. I'll treat you every day. But I have to wait until you break through first." "Sure. Oh yes, I found a few more people to form a team for the magical beast tide. It's up to you." The two of them walked away. The rest of the crowd felt bored and also dispersed. "Luyu, are you really not angry at what those people said about you just now?" When there was no one around, Mu Hongyu finally couldn't help but ask. Chu Luiwei laughed. "What's there to be angry about? Since I dared to do it, I'm not afraid of being criticized. Besides, you saw it yourself. They only dared to talk behind my back. They didn't dare to say a word in front of me. If I had to teach everyone who scolded me a lesson, I would be busy to death. It's not worth it for those people." Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. "The way you talk is very similar to my father. But I'm angry. If anyone makes me unhappy, I'll definitely get back at them." Mu Hongyu had a straightforward personality. She didn't beat around the bush, but she clearly wasn't someone who was willing to suffer losses. Chu Luiwei knew that it was useless to persuade her. Besides, she was helping him this time. Thus he smiled and changed the topic. "You said you found a few more people? Who are they?" Mu Hongyu stretched out her hand. "Besides you and me, there are 3 more spots. Liao Zhongshu and Tsin, who have already agreed to join. Both of them aren't weak. One of them ranked 9th and the other 7th in the midterm assessment. They have a good relationship with me. I can trust them. Alright, there's also Gu Mingfeng. You should know that he's going to fight Chu Xianmin in the finals." Gu Mingfeng. Chu Luiwei was a little surprised. She did know a little about this person. She heard that he was a bastard son of the Gu family. His birth mother's status was very low, so he wasn't favored. Even though he got into Tianlu Academy, his status in the Gu family was still very low. On the day of his fight with Chu Xianmin, she didn't have a deep impression of Gu Mingfeng. She only remembered that he was a young man with a feminine appearance and a cold temperament. Yeah. Don't be fooled by his quiet personality. He's really strong. I lost to him last time. It wasn't easy to get him to team up with me this time. He isn't going to team up with Gu Mingzhu. He doesn't even interact with Gu Mingzhu. How can they team up? Besides, Gu Mingzhu is very arrogant because she's a Xian master. Why would she team up with us? Mu Hongyu didn't think much of Gu Mingzhu. Chu Luyue nodded. Mu Hongyu suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh, right. By the way, do you know that Chu Xianmin is coming back today?" Love Network provided a better reading experience. Chapter 122. Of course Chu Xianmin would come back. Now that she was in such a miserable state, she could only rely on herself. She just did not know how Chu Xianmin would feel when she came back after the crown prince and Lu Yao got into trouble one after another. "Min, why didn't you invite us to your wedding? We were all waiting to send you off and have a good time." A familiar voice suddenly came from the corner. Chu Luyue and Mu Hongyu looked at each other and walked a few steps forward. The person who spoke was indeed Lu Fian. At this moment she was leading a few girls and surrounding a person. That person was wearing a veil. Based on her figure, it seemed to be Chu Xianmin. "Yeah. We didn't receive your invitation and we didn't even know the date. As long as you asked, we would have gone even if we took leave. We're so close. Why did you hide it from us?" Lu Fian was actually very angry. She originally planned to go on the day Chu Xianmin married into the Crown Prince mansion so that she could at least meet the Crown Prince. However, Chu Xianmin did not invite them at all. Without an invitation they could not go at all. After missing such a great opportunity, Lu Fian could not help but suspect that Chu Xianmin did it on purpose to monopolize the Crown Prince. Even though she was still smiling when she spoke, her eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. "There was too little time and I didn't have time to do many things. That's why I neglected you. I didn't do it on purpose." Chu Xianmin clenched her teeth and said. She clearly knew what these people were thinking. They wanted to make a fool out of her. There was no way. Lu Fian purposely smiled. "The Crown Prince has always liked you and now he's even willing to let you go back to school. Min, you must be doing well in the Crown Prince mansion, right?" Chu Xianmin reluctantly responded. "I haven't been here for a few days. I have some things to look for my teacher so I won't chat with you guys for now." Then she walked around them and was about to leave. However, when she looked up she happened to see the person she hated the most. Chu Luyue. Chu Xianmin's heart suddenly burned with anger, and her fingernails dug deeply into her palms. If looks could kill, Chu Luyue would have been covered in bruises. Mu Hongyu stared at her alertly. "What do you want to do?" However, Chu Xianmin did not say anything and walked past Chu Luyue and Chu Xianmin. That's strange. If it was in the past she definitely wouldn't have given up so easily. Why did her personality change after marrying into the Crown Prince's residence? Mu Hongyu murmured. Chu Luyue looked at Chu Xianmin's departing figure thoughtfully and smiled. "The best part is yet to come." Sco. The imperial capital seemed to be as calm as ever, but some people had already sensed that something was wrong. Something seemed to have happened to the Crown Prince. The most obvious point was that the memorials that had previously been sent to the Crown Prince's residence were now sent to the palace. On the surface, Emperor Zhou said that the Crown Prince was at the stage of breaking through, so he didn't want him to be distracted for the time being. But in reality, anyone with a discerning eye knew that this was taking back the Crown Prince's authority. Moreover, the Crown Prince had been in seclusion recently, refusing all invitations. Obviously there was something fishy going on. However, the palace had sealed off all news, so the crowd had no way of finding out what exactly happened. They could only secretly guess and choose to wait and see. Some people who were originally indecisive started to plan for themselves and secretly took action. "Third brother, what exactly is father planning to do? The Crown Prince sent someone to assassinate you and the evidence is clear. Why did father just ask the Crown Prince to reflect on his mistakes in the residence? Even if he thinks highly of the Crown Prince, he can't just let this matter end so hastily, right?" Rong Feng knitted his brows tightly and could not figure it out. After receiving seventh brother's big gift, he and Rong Jiu immediately understood. In the next few days they worked together to gather more evidence, and Rong Jiu presented all of it to father for him to take a look. The Crown Prince can't deny it. But why is father letting it go so easily? Rong Jiu looked calm. The evidence can indeed deal a heavy blow to the Crown Prince, but it's still too naive to rely on this to bring him down. But we can't just let it end like this, right? Rong Feng anxiously stood up and paced back and forth. Although he didn't really do anything to you, third brother, he can't deny it to seventh brother. This matter is just putting the blame on you, third brother. How can father be so biased towards him? As an emperor, shouldn't he hate such things? Indeed. But you forgot one thing. Even though the crown prince will make father hate him for doing something to me, it's still considered a lucky hit. It's also because of this that his punishment was reduced by a lot. As Rongjio spoke, he mocked himself. Didn't father keep me in the imperial city for so long because he wanted to do the same? Now that the crown prince did it for him, it made him feel much more relaxed. Hence, Rongjin's position as the crown prince would not be shaken this time. Rongfeng looked at his expression and suddenly understood something. Third brother, you're talking about father. But since things have already come to this point, isn't it good to take the opportunity to pull the crown prince down? Rongjio closed his eyes. There's no hurry. The outside world was in turmoil, but Chu Liuyue's days in the academy were very peaceful. Soon it was the end of August and the fiend title was just around the corner. The atmosphere in the academy became lively, and excited discussions could be heard everywhere. The students also became more diligent in their cultivation. Chu Liwei could clearly feel that more people came to Juyo Tower. What she didn't know was that it was very difficult to earn time in Juyo Tower to cultivate. So many people couldn't bear to come every day. They would only come more often when they were about to break through or when something big was about to happen. Chu Liwei originally wanted to break through to become a stage 2 warrior, but he failed again, so he decided not to think about it. When Chu Liwei returned to his residence at night, he saw a familiar figure once he entered the door. No, there were two figures. Rongxiu and Shueshue. Chu Liwei was a little surprised. Oh, Your Highness, you're so free today. During this period, Rongxiu seemed to be very busy. Even though he came a few times in between, he mostly came in the middle of the night and left early in the morning. Sometimes she didn't even see him. She could only know that he was here when she smelled his faint, cold fragrance. Today was a rare day. Rongxiu raised his eyebrows slightly, took out a box from his arms and handed it over. Open it and take a look. Chu Liwei took it over and lightly clicked on it. The box opened with a sound. A dagger was lying there quietly. She took off the black scabbard and a cold light flashed across. This dagger is so sharp. Chu Liwei was pleasantly surprised. She took a closer look and saw that there were two extremely thin willow leaf-like flying daggers attached to it. With just one look, Chu Liwei could feel the strong suppression contained in it. She looked up in surprise. Those little things of yours are not presentable. I specially prepared a handy one for you. Chu Liwei remembered that Rongxiu seemed to have said something like that before. She thought that he was joking. She didn't expect that he was serious. Her heart skipped a beat. Your Highness has been leaving early and returning late recently. Is it related to this thing? Rongxiu leaned closer, his eyes as deep as the starry night. His voice was low and teasing. Then, how will you repay you? How about giving yourself to me? He suddenly paused and looked down at the scabbard in front of his chest. Then I can give myself to you. Digression, today it's on the shelves. First come, first serve. Everyone accompanied you all the way. Yer was grateful. She didn't say much, only diligently updating. I hope that everyone can support me. Thank you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 123. Your Highness, it's better for you to make more practical requests. Chu Liwei held onto the scabbard and used a little force, wanting to push him away. Rongxiu knitted his brows slightly, but he didn't move back. Instead, he moved forward another inch. The two of them were already very close to each other, so they could smell each other's breaths. He openly displayed everything about himself in front of her as if he didn't care about anything else. Chu Liuyue's figure was reflected in his deep eyes. Chu Liuyue was dazed for a moment. It was as if, even if she was holding a sharp blade in her hands, he would still come over without a care. Her daze caused her actions to be delayed for a moment. A dim light flashed across Rongjin's eyes, and his thin lips gently curved up into an ambiguous arc. A faint sigh landed in Chu Liuyue's ears. How fierce! In the quiet and dark night, this sigh was like the spring wind that messed up the strings of a zither. It left an echo in Chu Liuyue's heart and didn't go away for a long time. Her heart couldn't help but beat violently, as if something cunning had torn a hole in the stiff and cold wall in her heart and crawled in. She almost instinctively took a step back and avoided Rong Xiu's eyes. Your Highness, with your distinguished status, countless gentle and virtuous women will go to you as long as you wave your hand. I Chu Liyue am fierce, ruthless and cold-hearted. Your Highness, why are you wasting your time on me? Rong Xiu looked at her and something seemed to be moving in his eyes. Finally it turned into a light smile. But I can't see them. I only see you. What can I do? Chu Liyue's heart tingled and she couldn't help but look at him. The cold moonlight flowed in and Rong Xiu's face was half lit and half dark. His brows were slightly knitted as if he was very troubled. However, there was a hint of indulgence in his eyes and brows. Chu Liyue didn't know how to respond to such a straightforward confession of love. The two of them quieted down, leaving only an ambiguous atmosphere brewing between them. It was as if even the wind at the end of summer had become gentle. Chu Liyue had heard of confessions before. In her previous life her status was noble, her strength was extraordinary, and there was no need to talk about her appearance. She had attracted the admiration of many young men. Logically speaking, she shouldn't feel anything if she were to encounter such a scene again. But Rong Xiu's words seemed to have an inexplicable power, which could always easily stir up her mood. Chu Liyue lowered his eyes. Not to mention that Rong Xiu had saved her several times. Just the peach blossom hairpin on Rong Xiu's birthday and the exquisite dagger today showed that he had put in a lot of effort. If it were any other woman, they would be moved by what he had done for her. It would be a lie to say that she didn't feel anything. But she had experienced the most unforgettable betrayal in the world. Now she couldn't easily give all her trust. Faced with Rong Xiu's kindness, her first reaction was not to accept it happily but to escape. When Rong Xiu approached her, there was a faint trace of fear in her heart. That fear came from the unforgettable pain in the depths of her memory. And she couldn't tell Rong Xiu about this. Moreover, after her rebirth, the most important thing for her was revenge. If she was too close to Rong Xiu, he would definitely be implicated. This was also unfair to Rong Xiu. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. In just a moment, Chu Liyue looked up at Rong Xiu again. Her expression was calm, her eyes were clear and the corners of her mouth curved. Your Highness really knows how to joke. Her cold voice shattered the originally ambiguous atmosphere. Rong Xiu stared at her. Both of them were smart people. There were some words that didn't need to be said. They already understood each other's meaning. Chu Liyue waited for Rong Xiu to turn and leave. Any man who had done so much for a woman but was still rejected should not continue, right? Moreover, Rong Xiu was of noble status. However, unexpectedly, Rong Xiu didn't look angry or embarrassed at all, as if he didn't care about Chu Liyue's words. Then he reached out and grasped the scabbard in front of his chest. Just tell me, do you like this gift? Chu Liyue was stunned. But seeing Rong Xiu's insistence, she could only nod. Your Highness' gift is always good. It's good that you like it. Rong Xiu chuckled, then suddenly reached out and pinched her cheek. When I made this, I put in a lot of effort. Today you have to accompany me to rest as a token of your gratitude. Chu Liyue was shocked. This, you made it yourself? Because she was too surprised, she didn't have time to complain about Rong Xiu pinching her cheek. Seeing the girl in front of him in a daze, Rong Xiu's mood finally improved. He turned and walked upstairs. I'm very tired today. I'll tell you tomorrow. Chu Liyue sneered in her heart. Why would he talk about this tomorrow? Your Highness, if you're willing to talk about it tomorrow, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to listen. Rong Xiu stopped and looked back at her. Chu Liyue also walked forward. When she reached him, she paused and raised her chin slightly. The academy will set off for Wanling Mountain tomorrow. We have to leave early in the morning. So you'd better tell it to yourself. After saying that, Chu Liyue didn't look at Rong Xiu's expression. She went upstairs, entered her room and directly locked the door. Rong Xiu only reacted when he heard the sound of the door being locked. He looked at the tightly shut door and raised his eyebrows. After a moment he couldn't help but laugh. She was really as calculative as always. She refused to lose even a little. At this moment Shui, who had been trying to reduce its presence, suddenly jumped from the first floor to the door of Chu Liyue's room on the second floor. It scratched the door with its claws. No. Its claws were so sharp that it left a few neat scratch marks on the door. Seeing Shui like this, Rong Xiu suddenly felt that it was embarrassing. After all, it was a high-level magical beast. How could it lose its composure when faced with such a small matter? How embarrassing was it to scratch here and there? Shui, what are you doing? Rongxiu lowered his voice and asked. Shui turned around to look at him. Its eyes were filled with grievance and indignation. Why else would she go to Wanling Mountain? Of course, it was to hunt magical beasts. Didn't Chu Liyue like it? Why did she go out to find other wild dogs? No wild magical beasts. What was she doing with it? This was absolutely unacceptable. Shui couldn't care less about Rongxiu anymore. It turned around and scratched the door again. However, Rongxiu immediately understood from this look. Wait a minute. Tianlu Academy would indeed bring students to Wanling Mountain to train at this time every year. If he remembered correctly, they seemed to be forming their own teams. Then who was she in the same team as? A crack finally appeared in Rongxiu's calm expression. Chu Liyue had just entered Tianlu Academy, so she didn't know many people. The people she was most familiar with were probably the dozens of Xian masters. If she was in a team, she would be with these people. Could it be that fellow from the Sea family? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from LoveWeb. Chapter 124. Wanling Mountain was a 2-day journey from the Imperial City. Tianlu Academy's teachers would bring the students who volunteered to go there for training. Some people wanted to hunt fiend beasts that they were satisfied with, while others wanted to use this rare opportunity to improve their skills. Fighting with fiend beasts could increase one's potential and unleash more power. Sometimes this could even help cultivators break through their own bottlenecks and advance to the next level. Thus, most of the students in the academy had signed up. Early in the morning, the students had already gathered at the first glimmer of light. The older students were fine, but most of the new students could not hide their excitement. I wonder if I can hunt a 4th-grade fiend beast during this fiend tide? Just you. Don't even think about it. Only the most talented and powerful people can hunt fiend beasts of that level. That might not be the case. Maybe I'll be lucky and encounter one. What's more, the people in our group aren't weak. If we join forces, there's a chance of success. I don't want to think too much. I just want to find a few powerful fiend beasts to fight with. Tisk, when you encounter a high-level fiend beast, you might not even have time to run. Everyone was discussing and teasing each other. They were obviously looking forward to this trip. Outside the lively crowd, a few people were exceptionally quiet. Why isn't Lu Yu here yet? It's almost time to leave. Mu Hongyu looked at the sky and was a little anxious. Yesterday she had specially told Chu Liyue twice about today's departure time and that she could not be late. Now that everyone had arrived, why was she still nowhere to be seen? Is she delayed by something? A tall and skinny young man beside Mu Hongyu asked. His skin was very white and he looked very gentle. He spoke slower than the average person, but he sounded very gentle. This person was Liao Zhongshu. Mu Hongyu shook her head. What could be more important than the fiend tide now? Logically speaking, she shouldn't have forgotten. Chu Liyue did not seem like an unreliable person. Do you know where she lives? Why don't we go look for her directly? Liao Zhongshu said placatingly. Mu Hongyu covered her face. You forgot that she's a mystic cultivator and lives in a different place from us. These days she had become much closer to Chu Liyue, but she had never asked where Chu Liyue lived. Liao Zhongshu fell silent for a moment. He had really neglected this. What's there to be troubled about? If we really can't do it, the 4 of us can form a team. We're short of one person. Could it be that we're not allowed to go? A burly, dark-skinned youth beside Liao Zhongshu said in a gruff voice. Sinhu, are you a tiger? Mu Hongyu rolled her eyes at him. Everyone else said there are 5 people, but there are only 4 of us. How much of a loss do we have to suffer? Don't forget that when we reach Wanling Mountain we fight in small groups. Sinhu trembled from her reprimand. He scratched his head and muttered softly, then we can't find another person. Mu Hongyu glared at him. At this juncture, everyone has already formed a team. Where are we going to find another person? Sinhu finally shut his mouth. Everyone, come forward to collect your items. The few of them turned their heads to take a look. After we collect our items we really have to set off, Liao Zhongshu said with a frown. Mu Hongyu bit her lip. I'll go and ask Teacher Bai Qin. On the other side, Bai Qin was counting the number of mystic cultivators. After counting, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Where's Chu Liyue? Why isn't she here? Everyone looked at each other but no one said anything. Teacher Bai Qin, do you know where Liu lives? She's not here yet. I want to go and find her. Mu Hongyu quickly walked forward and said straightforwardly. Bai Qin was shocked. She's really not here yet? Seeing Mu Hongyu's anxious expression, he thought for a moment and immediately looked at Si Ting. Si Ting, you know where she lives, right? Bring Mu Hongyu to take a look. Si Ting nodded. Okay. However, before the two of them could do anything, Gu Mingzhu, who had been watching coldly from the side, could not help but mock them. Teacher Bai Qin, it's almost time. What if you don't make it back in time if you look for her now? Chu Liyue didn't pay attention to the time, so it's her fault if she misses it. You can't implicate others because of her, right? Mu Hongyu glared at her in annoyance. Gu Mingzhu, what does this have to do with you? We're not in the same team as you. Even if there's a delay, it won't affect you. Why are you so anxious? Gu Mingzhu's face turned red. Am I not telling the truth? Chu Liyue is in the same team as you. If you want to look for her, go look for her yourself. Don't drag others into it. With that said, she snorted and pursed her lips. I think she's afraid and deliberately didn't go. Mu Hongyu suppressed the anger in her heart. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you now. I'll deal with you when I come back. Si Ting, bring me there first. With that said, the two of them turned to leave. You don't have to look for her. I'm here. A familiar voice rang out. Mu Hongyu looked up in surprise and saw Chu Liyue indeed. Liu, you're finally here. Mu Hongyu quickly walked over to Chu Liyue and could not help but pat her arm. Why are you so late? I thought you were going to stand us up. Chu Liyue put her hands together and begged for mercy. I'm sorry. Something happened and I was delayed. Is there still time? Of course there's still time. Mu Hongyu glanced at Gu Mingzhu and deliberately raised her voice. Some people can't wait for you not to come so that they won't be suppressed again. Gu Mingzhu wanted to argue, but when she saw Si Ting next to her, she suppressed her anger and turned her head away angrily. Liu, you almost couldn't make it. Bai Qin shook his head, but he could not bear to scold her, so he waved at her. Hurry up and go back. It will be your turn soon. Thank you, Teacher Bai Qin. After Chu Liyue finished speaking, she and Mu Hongyu went back to meet the others. Mu Hongyu poked her and said in a low voice, Hey, why are you here? Hey, what's wrong with you today? Why are you so late? Chu Liyue coughed. It's just a small matter. It's already settled. Yes, it was just that Prince Li and Xianxia pestered her for most of the night. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 125. This pair of master and servant, one human and one beast, had the same temperament. After knowing that she was going to Wanling Mountain today, they started to cause a ruckus. If she had not stopped it in time, the door would have been smashed by Xuexue's claws. Xuexue seemed to be very dissatisfied with this matter and threw a tantrum. Chu Liyue spent a lot of effort to pacify it. As for Rongxiu, Chu Liyue's ears heated up and she closed her eyes. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Liu, why are your ears red? Mu Hongyu asked curiously. Chu Liyue immediately shook her head. It's nothing. I came in a hurry. Mu Hongyu nodded understandingly and wrinkled her nose. You know that we have to leave early in the morning, so why did you come so late? If you didn't make it, I wouldn't have let you off. Chu Liyue assured her that it would not happen again, so Mu Hongyu was relieved. With Mu Hongyu's introduction, Chu Liyue met Liao Zhongshu, Sun Hu and Gu Mingfeng. Just as Mu Hongyu had said, these people were all stage 3 warriors, especially Gu Mingfeng. His aura fluctuated and there were signs of him breaking through. As the team leader, Mu Hongyu queued up to collect the items. This time Sun Zhongyan was in charge of leading the team. Under him were a few elders and dozens of teachers. When all the teams had gathered, Sun Zhongyan, who was standing at the front, spoke. Students, I believe that everyone has been looking forward to this trip to Wanling Mountain. This time I'll be the leader. Other than me, Tianlu Academy will send 3 elders to each be in charge of one batch. Under each elder there will be 10 teachers and each teacher will be in charge of 3 teams. There's a signal tube in the things I gave you. If you encounter any danger, just pull it. Chu Liyue looked at the thumb-sized black tube in her hand. There were 2 lines at the bottom. Pulling one line means asking the teacher for help. If he was in a life-and-death situation, he would pull both strings. The Academy's elders will immediately locate your location and head over to rescue you. Sun Zhongyan's voice was thick and clear. Is everyone clear? Yes. Sun Zhongyan paused for a moment, his expression turning serious. The Thousand Spirit Mountain Range's terrain is steep. During the demonic beast tide, it's even more dangerous. The slightest carelessness could cost him his life. So, no matter how much you want to hunt a satisfactory magical beast, you must remember that safety comes first. Everyone responded in unison. The student will remember your teachings. Sun Zhongyan nodded in satisfaction. Set off. There were so many people and none of them could fly. Naturally, they could only walk. Fortunately, the aptitudes of the students of the academy were excellent, and their progress was not slow. In addition, there were many people and the atmosphere was lively. It was a joyous journey. The topic of discussion was obviously related to Wanling Mountain and the magical beast tide. Some of the senior brothers and sisters who had been there would often talk about what had happened during the magical beast tide in the past 1 or 2 years, causing the freshmen to be even more curious. If only I had broken through to become a stage 4 warrior. Mu Hongyu muttered softly as she walked. She had been cultivating diligently during this period of time, and she was even close to breaking through. But for some reason she was still a little short. Originally, she had planned that if she could successfully break through, her strength would increase greatly. Then she would be able to choose a better and more satisfactory magical beast during this magical beast tide. But now it seemed that this was not going to work. Hongyu, you can't rush cultivation. Liao Zhongshu gently reminded her. Of course I know that. But who doesn't want to break through? Don't you want to? Liao Zhongshu did not argue with her and only shook his head with a smile. Mu Hongyu sighed. Why can't I be like Lu Yu? Although I'm a stage 1 warrior, I have the strength of a stage 3 warrior. I might even be stronger. Chu Liyue smiled but did not say anything. She actually did not want to. Mu Hongyu looked at Gu Mingfeng again. Oh right, weren't you about to break through previously? Why haven't you done anything yet? Gu Mingfeng, who had been silent all this while, looked indifferent as he lightly said, It's probably not time yet. Chu Liyue looked at him again and was in deep thought. Gu Mingfeng, doesn't seem to be that simple. A somewhat cold gaze suddenly fell on her body. Chu Liyue's gaze moved slightly and met Chu Xianmin's gaze that was about to retract. That pair of eyes still had hatred and resentment that had not faded away in time. Chu Xianmin did not expect Chu Liyue to be so sharp and hurriedly turned her gaze away. This was a rare opportunity that she begged for from the crown prince. He had to make good use of it. Chu Liyue sneered in her heart. Chu Xianmin really did not give up on her evil intentions. Rong Jin did not come this time, which showed that the severity of the matter was far beyond her expectations. She just did not know what the situation in the imperial city would be like when she returned. After 2 days of trekking, the crowd finally arrived at the foot of Wanling Mountain on the morning of the 3rd day. Looking up, the mountains were undulating. Some were steep while some were beautiful. The entire mountain was covered in lush greenery. It was truly beautiful. Standing here, Chu Liyue could already feel a subtle aura. Sun Zhongyan was still instructing the students bit by bit. The fiend title will appear in 2 days. Everyone, get ready to enter the mountain range. Remember, act according to your capabilities. You must not enter Wanling Mountain's hinterland. You must leave Wanling Mountain in 3 days. Yes. At the foot of the mountain and in a different environment, the students' voices were much louder. Every team started to move separately and quickly disappeared into the forest. Let's go too. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes were bright and she was eager to try. Chu Liyue looked up. The towering mountain range was as quiet as a sleeping beast, making one feel uneasy. She took a deep breath and suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. She followed Mu Hongyu and the rest into the forest. Wanling Mountain was vast. Chu Liyue and the rest quickly separated from the others. The surroundings gradually became quiet. Only the sound of their feet stepping on the thick layer of leaves could be heard. The leaves swayed with the wind and the mottled sunlight shone down. After walking for 2 hours, Mu Hongyu finally could not help but ask, Master Dongfeng, you said that the fiend tidal array is here. When the fiend tidal comes, fiends will appear in the periphery of the mountain range. We've been here for a while, but why haven't we seen a single fiend? Chu Liwei was about to speak when she suddenly felt a cold aura. Her expression turned stern as she looked in a certain direction. Come out. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 126. Mu Hongyu and the rest were shocked and they hurriedly looked over. However, there was no movement at all. In the quiet forest, everything was very calm. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Luyu, did you sense wrongly? I don't feel the aura of a magical beast. Chu Liyue's expression didn't change and his eyes were still fixed on that spot. If you don't come out, don't blame me for being rude. Mu Hongyu and the rest looked at each other. There were only trees around them. There wasn't even a tall bush. How could there be a magic beast hiding here? However, Chu Liyue didn't look like he was joking. The rest of them subconsciously kept quiet. A moment later, the fallen leaves in front of them suddenly moved. There's something. Mu Hongyu and the rest immediately became alert. There really was a magical beast here. Puff. What is this? The few of them who were facing a great enemy were all stunned for a moment. Achoo. It's a little fox. Mu Hongyu blurted out. No, it's not a fox. It's a blood ferret. Chu Liyue heaved a sigh of relief. The rest of them were shocked. The rumored most useless third-grade magical beast, blood ferret? Puff, 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 puff. Chu Liyue nodded. A third-grade magical beast was not considered to be of a particularly low level. However, the blood ferret's body was small and its attack power was not strong. Furthermore, it was too lively and active. It was not suitable to be a hunting magical beast. Such blood ferrets were usually kept as pets by the aristocratic families. Forget it then. The few of them were disappointed. They did not expect that the first demonic beast they encountered after entering Wanling Mountain would be a blood ferret. Chu Liyue nodded. None of them had any magical beasts, so they came with high hopes. However, blood ferrets were not suitable for hunting. They ignored him and turned around to leave. However, just as Chu Liyue was about to move, he suddenly stopped and lowered his head to look. At some point in time, the little thing had bitten the hem of her clothes and was looking at her eagerly. Chu Liyue was silent for a moment. They did not want to hunt the blood ferret, but it seemed like it wanted to go with them. Chu Liyue bent down and wanted to take it away. However, the little thing seemed to know her intention. It ran to the other side and bit her. The blood ferret was extremely fast. If Chu Liyue caught it with her bare hands, she would definitely not be able to catch it. Hence she did not move. Wu, it seems to like you a lot. Mu Hongyu could not help but say with a curious look on her face. She had only heard of the blood ferret, but she had never seen one before. It looked quite cute. Chu Liyue also found it strange and said to the little thing, "Don't worry." She said to the blood ferret, "We don't intend to do anything to you. You better not follow us." After saying that, the blood ferret blinked blankly. Seemed to take a while before it understood what Chu Liyue meant. She didn't want it anymore. Tears quickly gathered in the blood ferret's eyes. Bean-sized teardrops fell down. It looked up at Chu Liyue as if it was silently accusing her. Chu Liyue was speechless. Something seemed wrong. "Liu, why don't we bring it along? You don't want it. Can't you just treat it as a pet? Otherwise it will be lonely and pitiful." Mu Hongyu could not resist such a furry little thing. She could not help but say, "Why don't we let it follow me?" The blood ferret shook its head frantically. Mu Hongyu was a little disappointed. "It seems like it only wants to follow you," Chu Liyue thought for a moment. "Then be obedient and we will take you with us." The blood ferret hurriedly nodded and jumped up. Like a red bolt of lightning, it scurried onto Chu Liyue's shoulder. It squatted, swept its tail and nestled on Chu Liyue's shoulder. From afar it looked like a furry red dumpling. It was light and not heavy at all. Chu Liyue glanced at it and her lips curved up. Scope. After that they continued to walk into the forest. Not long after they encountered a third-grade fiend livid horse. The livid horse was tall and was considered one of the stronger third-grade fiends. Livid horses have a cool temperament and are less aggressive. They usually don't take the initiative to fight people. They are suitable as mounts and not suitable for hunting. Liao Zhongshu said softly. Xin, who was a little tempted at first, but when he heard that, he immediately dispelled the idea. Then let's continue to walk in. Maybe we can find a better one. After saying that, he took the lead and walked forward. However, the livid horse did not move aside. It stood in front of them and scratched the ground with its front hooves. It breathed heavily through its nose, and there was obvious hostility in its eyes. Xin, who noticed that something was wrong, and frowned. Bookworm, didn't you say that livid horses won't take the initiative to attack people? Why do I feel like it wants to fight with us? Liao Zhongshu was also a little surprised. Can't be, right? I have a few livid horses at home and they are all very docile. Why is this? Could it be that the fiends in Wanling Mountain are all more ferocious? Before he could finish his sentence, the iron-green horse neighed and charged towards them at high speed. Xin, who was the first to bear the brunt. Ha! He shouted as he bent his legs and raised his muscular arms. His fan-like palms were clenched into fists and suddenly punched. Extreme fist. He was a third-grade warrior and had a strong physical body. The power of this punch was not to be underestimated. The punch was fierce as it went toward the livid horse. The livid horse raised its front hooves and was about to dodge the punch. Xin, who immediately chased after him and actually dashed under the livid horse. Then his fist turned into a claw and directly struck the livid horse's abdomen. Rip! The livid horse's abdomen was immediately torn open and blood splattered everywhere. Xin, whose face was also stained with some dirty blood. However, this made his fighting spirit even stronger. Die! He shouted and was about to take its life. At this moment, the livid horse suddenly raised its leg and kicked Xin Hu's chest. Be careful! Mu Hongyu and the rest sensed that something was wrong and immediately went forward to help. The livid horse was attacked from both sides and had no choice but to be distracted. Its attack power was greatly reduced. However, it was still ruthless and kicked Xin Hu's back. Poof! Xin Hu suffered a heavy blow and fell to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was much paler. Gu Mingfeng stared at the livid horse and saw a hint of red in its eyes. This beast is going crazy. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. The livid horse was gentle by nature. Why would it attack them for no reason? And it was so crazy? At that moment, Mu Hongyu exclaimed, "What? It's dangerous." Chu Luiyue looked up and saw that the livid horse had bypassed Mu Hongyu and the rest and was charging toward her. It was targeting her. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 127. Chu Liyue's eyes darkened as he drew his sword from his waist and stabbed forward. That bright and sharp sword pierced the steel azure horse's neck with unparalleled precision. The steel azure horse let out a painful neigh as its eyes turned even crazier. Its body moved and it continued to attack Chu Liyue without a care for anything else. Chu Liyue's expression was cold as he flipped his wrist. That long sword suddenly slashed horizontally, forcefully severing the steel azure horse's neck. Thump! The huge greenish head fell to the ground with a dull thud. The wound that Chu Liyue had cut was still bleeding profusely. The steel azure horse's eyes were wide open as it twitched twice before it stopped breathing very quickly. Chu Liyue sheathed her sword and glanced at the corpse on the ground as she thought to herself. She did not know this steel azure horse and she had not done anything overboard. Why would it react like this? Mu Hongyu and the others were stunned for a while before they reacted to what had happened. Li Lue, you're too fast. Mu Hongyu asked in a daze. The few of them had attacked together but were unable to stop the berserk iron azure horse. However, Chu Liyue had only used one sword strike to kill it. What kind of power did he need to do that? Damn. You were still holding back when you were competing with Chu Qianmin. Xin Hu, who had fallen to the ground, finally got up. However, he could not care less about the blood on his face and body. He only stared at Chu Liyue in disbelief. He had fought the steel azure horse head-on just now and had experienced its power. Even someone as strong as him had suffered under the hooves of the steel azure horse. If Mu Hongyu and the others had not come to help, he might not have been its match. But Chu Liyue had actually killed it so easily. Chu Luiyue collected her thoughts and looked up at the others. He shrugged. It wanted to kill me, so of course I wouldn't show it any mercy. As for the midterm assessment, didn't teacher say to stop when the time was right? Xinhu stared at Chu Luiyue as he spoke so casually. He could not help but curse in a low voice. Chu Luiyue raised his chin. You can take the origin core. Xinhu's eyes widened. What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? You killed the steel azure horse, so the origin core is naturally yours. I, Xinhu, am not a greedy person. Chu Luiyue rubbed the area between his brows. This Xinhu's personality was a little too straightforward. You were injured by it. If you don't rest well, you won't be able to recover without half a month. Take its origin core and use it to heal. You'll recover faster. The others were stunned by his words. Xinhu was a little tempted, but he still asked doubtfully, Really? How do you know all this? Chu Luiyue could not be bothered with him. He turned and walked forward. It's just a third-grade origin core. It's not a good thing. It's fine if you don't want it. But if it affects our entire team, Hongyu won't let you off, let alone me. Mu Hongyu suddenly patted him on the shoulder. Didn't you hear what Liwei said? Hurry up and go. Xinhu staggered from the pat, but he was not angry at all. He grinned. Then I'll take the origin core first. When we encounter other magical beasts in the future, I'll be at the front to help you. As he spoke, he walked to the side of the corpse and cut it open with his saber. From the steel azure horse's head, he took out a green pearl the size of a longan. On it, 3 vein patterns could be clearly seen. Xinhu wiped off the blood on it, opened his mouth and swallowed it. A warm current flowed through his lungs and the heart-wrenching pain instantly lessened. Xinhu's eyes lit up. Really works. Chu Luiyue did not turn back. The origin cores of magical beasts all contain some poison, and the steel azure horse is no exception. Every hour after that, cut your thumb and let out some blood. Do this 3 times and the poison in the origin core will naturally be expelled. It would have been better to use the 3 pure leaves, but there doesn't seem to be any here. Let's use this stupid method for now. Her tone was light, as if it was a small matter. However, Mu Hongyu and the others were dumbfounded by what they heard. Chu Luiyue walked a few steps and realized that there was no movement behind her. She finally turned around, but saw that they were all looking at her strangely. What's wrong? Luiyue, how do you know so much? Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Gu Mingfeng, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Have you forgotten that she passed all 3 exams to get into the academy? Of course, that included Heaven Doctor. Actually, Mu Hongyu and the others could not be blamed for not remembering. On the day Chu Luiyue had been admitted to the academy, she had immediately participated in the Mystic Master and Warrior midterm examinations. She had placed 2nd and 1st respectively. It was really too dazzling. Not many people had really paid attention to Heaven Doctor. Now that Gu Mingfeng mentioned it, the few of them snapped out of their daze. Damn. I really forgot. Xinhu smacked his head and gave Chu Luiyue a thumbs up. I'm impressed. Chu Luiyue, I, Xinhu, am really impressed by you now. Chu Luiyue raised her brows slightly. It's just a superficial knowledge. It's nothing much. Let's continue walking in. All right. Mu Hongyu and the others responded in unison. Mu Hongyu had originally been the leader of their team, but unknowingly, they had already treated Chu Luiyue as their backbone. It was as if she could inexplicably convince people just by standing there. Gu Mingfeng followed at the back and narrowed his eyes. Chu Luiyue really only knew a little. The iron azure horse was not considered common. Even if ordinary people had seen it, they might not know much about it. But Chu Luiyue actually knew something like how to expel the poison from the iron azure horse original elixir. Could it really be such a coincidence? In the mountains, the sky always darkened very quickly. The sun set, the curtain of night hung high, and a bright moon hung in the sky. Why don't we rest here today? Mu Hongyu suggested as they walked to a relatively spacious area. However, Chu Luiyue suddenly pulled her back. Wait. Mu Hongyu looked at her strangely, only to see that Chu Luiyue's expression was vigilant and her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she was very nervous. He could not help but feel nervous as well. What's wrong? After what had happened in the day, she trusted Chu Luiyue the most now. If Chu Luiyue felt that something was wrong, then something was definitely wrong. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips tightly and did not speak. However, fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. What exactly is? Mu Hongyu stopped abruptly in the middle of her sentence. A pair of cold and glossy green eyes appeared in the darkness like two balls of the wisp. There's a wolf? Chu Luiyue held her breath. It's not just one. The few of them looked at the same time and saw that next to the pair of green eyes, a second and a third pair had appeared. Very soon, they were surrounded by these cold eyes that looked like the wisp. Greedy, cold and cruel. There was a dead silence in the forest. Only endless murderous intent was spreading wildly. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes. It's a pack of wolves. Digression. Usually updated at 9 in the morning. Mobile users please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 128. Chu Luiyue's eyes darkened. He drew his sword from his waist and stabbed it forward. Poof! That bright and sharp sword accurately pierced the livid horse's neck. The livid horse let out a painful neigh, and its eyes became even crazier. It moved its body and continued to attack Chu Luiyue without caring about anything else. Chu Luiyue's expression was cold as he flipped his wrist. The sword suddenly slashed horizontally and cut off the livid horse's neck. Plop! The livid horse's head fell to the ground with a dull thud. The wound that Chu Luiyue cut was still bleeding. The livid horse's eyes were wide open, and it twitched twice before it stopped breathing. Chu Luiyue put his sword away and looked at the corpse on the ground. He was deep in thought. She did not know this livid horse and she did not do anything overboard. Why did it react this way? Mu Hongyu and the rest were stunned for a while before they realized what had happened. You're too fast. Mu Hongyu asked in a daze. The few of them had attacked the livid horse together, but they could not stop it. However, Chu Luiyue killed it with just one slash. How strong must he be to do that? F***ck. You were still holding back when you were competing with Zhou Xian the other day? Xin Hu, who was lying on the ground, got up with much difficulty. He did not care about the blood on his face and body. He stared at Chu Luiyue with his eyes wide open in disbelief. He had a taste of the livid horse's abilities when he fought it head-on earlier. Even someone as strong as him had suffered under the livid horse's hooves. If Mu Hongyu and the rest did not help him, he might not have been its match. However, Chu Luiyue killed it so easily. Chu Luiyue collected his thoughts, looked up at the few of them and shrugged. It wanted to kill me, so I naturally did not show it any mercy. As for the midterm assessment, didn't the teacher say not to go overboard? Xin Hu stared at Chu Luiyue with his eyes wide open. He could not help but curse softly. Chu Luiyue raised his chin. You can have the pearl of essence. Xin Hu's eyes widened. What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? You killed the livid horse, so its pearl of essence is naturally yours. I'm not a greedy person. Chu Luiyue rubbed his eyebrows. Xin Hu's personality was a little too straightforward. You were injured by it. If you don't recuperate, you'll need at least 10 days to half a month. If you take its origin pill and use your origin to heal, you'll recover faster. Xin Hu's words were stunned. Xin Hu's words, but he still doubtfully. Really? How do you know this? Chu Luiyue could not be bothered with him. He turned around and walked away. A mere third-grade pearl of essence is nothing. It's fine if you don't want it. But if it affects our entire team, Hongyu will be the first to come after you. Mu Hongyu had an epiphany and suddenly patted his shoulder. Didn't you hear what Lu Yu said? Why aren't you going? Xin Hu staggered from the slap, but he wasn't angry at all. He grinned. Then I'll take the pearl of essence first. When we encounter other fiends, I'll definitely rush to the front to help you. As he spoke, he walked to the corpse and cut it open. From the head of the livid horse, he took out a green pearl the size of a longan fruit. 3 lines were clearly visible on the pearl. Xin Hu wiped the blood off the pearl and swallowed it. A warm current passed through his heart, and the heart-wrenching pain from before was instantly alleviated by a lot. Xin Hu's eyes lit up. It really works. Chu Luiyue didn't turn around and lightly said, she said calmly, the pearl of essence of a fiend is more or less poisonous. The livid horse is no exception. After that, every hour cut your thumb and let out some blood. Do this 3 times and you will naturally be able to expel the poison from the pill of essence. It would be better to use the 3 pure leaves, but I don't think there are any here. Let's use this stupid method for now. Her tone was light, as if this was just a small matter. However, Mu Hongyu and the rest were all dumbfounded. Chu Liwei walked a few steps and realized that there was no movement behind her. She finally turned around and saw that they were looking at her strangely. What's wrong? Yu, how do you know so much? Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Gu Mingfeng, who had been quiet all this while, suddenly spoke. Have you forgotten that she was admitted to the college after passing all 3 examinations? This naturally included the celestial physician. Actually, Mu Hongyu and the others could not be blamed for not remembering. On the day that Chu Luiyue was admitted to the college, she directly participated in the Xian Master and Warrior midterm examinations. She came in 2nd place and 1st place respectively. It was truly too dazzling. Not many people paid attention to the celestial physician. Now that Gu Mingfeng mentioned it, the others suddenly snapped out of their daze. Damn. I really forgot. Xin Hu slapped his head and gave Chu Liwei a thumbs up. I'm impressed. Chu Liwei, Xin Hu really admire you now. Chu Liwei raised her brows slightly. It's just a superficial knowledge. It's not a big deal. Let's continue walking. Okay. Mu Hongyu and the others responded in unison. Originally, their team leader was Mu Hongyu, but unknowingly, they had already regarded Chu Liwei as their backbone. It was as if she could inexplicably convince others just by standing there. Gu Mingfeng followed at the back and narrowed his eyes. Chu Liwei really only knew a superficial knowledge? The livid horse was not considered common. Even if an average person had seen it, they might not know much about it. However, Chu Liwei actually knew how to expel the poison from the livid horse's pill of origin. Could it really be such a coincidence? The sky in the mountain forest always turned dark very quickly. The sun set and the curtain of night hung up. A bright moon hung in the sky. Shall we rest here first today? Mu Hongyu suggested as they walked to a more spacious area. Chu Luiyue suddenly pulled her back. Wait. Mu Hongyu looked at her strangely and saw Chu Luiyue's vigilant expression. Her brows were tightly knitted as if she was very nervous. She could not help but feel nervous. What's the matter? After what happened during the day, she trusted Chu Liwei the most now. If Chu Liwei felt that something was wrong, then something was definitely wrong. Chu Liwei pursed her lips tightly and did not speak. However, fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. What on earth? Mu Hongyu abruptly stopped halfway through her sentence. A pair of cold green eyes appeared in the darkness like 2 balls of the wisps. There's a wolf? Chu Liwei held her breath. Not just one. The few of them looked over together and saw a 2nd and 3rd pair of green eyes appear one after another beside that pair of green eyes. Soon they were surrounded by these cold eyes that looked like the wisps. Greedy, cold, cruel. There was a deathly silence in the forest. Only endless killing intent was spreading crazily. Chu Liwei closed her eyes. It's a pack of wolves. Digression. Usually updated at 9 a.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. Chapter 129. This is a 3rd-grade fiend, a red wolf. There must be at least a dozen of them. There are only 5 of us. How can we be their match? Mu Hongyu's face turned pale. They were too unlucky to encounter such danger as soon as they entered Wanling Mountain Range. If there were only 1 or 2 of them, they might have a chance of winning if they worked together. However, there were so many of them. Without a doubt, they would not be able to defeat them. Liao Zhongshu frowned and muttered, "That's not right." Although red wolves live in packs and are ferocious, they are also very arrogant. They rarely fight with people for no reason. We didn't do anything. Why are they targeting us? Chu Liuyue's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly recalled that the livid horse seemed to be targeting her, for no reason. Could it be that these red wolves were also targeting her? The 2 parties were in a stalemate. The air seemed to have frozen. What do you want? After a short moment of dead silence, a cold voice broke the strange atmosphere. Chu Liuyue suddenly spoke. At the same time, she took a step forward and stood in front of them. Mu Hongyu pulled her sleeve nervously. Crazy. Those red wolves were so ferocious. If they went over now, they would be courting death. Chu Liuyue patted her gently, indicating that she did not need to worry. However, Mu Hongyu still refused to let go. She was afraid that Chu Liwei would take things too hard and go over. We are no match for these things. Let's think of a way to escape. I'll send a message to the teachers and elders now and ask for their help. As she spoke, Mu Hongyu was about to take out the signal tube. Chu Liyue's heart sank. She wanted to stop her. Don't. Before she could finish her sentence, Mu Hongyu had already taken out the signal tube. A woo. A ferocious roar suddenly echoed through the forest. The sudden movement startled Mu Hongyu. She instinctively trembled and did not pull the signal tube in time. However, the surrounding pack of wolves suddenly walked forward. The encirclement became even tighter. Following that, the wolves raised their heads and howled. Oh! Under the moonlight, such a sound was particularly horrifying. Chu Liyue felt her organs tremble and she knitted her brows tightly. With so many red-winged wolves, even if each of them bit them once, it would be more than enough for them to endure. They seemed to be angry. Xin, who was also sweating profusely from nervousness. Chu Liyue tightened his grip on the long sword in his hand. His muscles tightened as he secretly accumulated power. The red wolf is extremely intelligent and sensitive. When Snapper took out the signal tube, they knew that we were going to call for help. To them, this is a provocation. Mu Hongyu immediately panicked. So it was because of her? I'm sorry. Now is not the time to talk about this. Chu Liyue interrupted her with a reassuring tone. Since they've set their sights on us, they won't leave easily. It's only a matter of time before they attack us. Although Mu Hongyu said that, she still blamed herself. Suddenly, the gathered wolves parted in the middle. A snow-white, muscular red-winged wolf slowly walked out from the back of the pack. Its fur was smooth and shiny. When it walked out of the darkness, the moonlight shone on its body, making it look particularly majestic. Most importantly, its eyes were filled with undisguised murderous intent. Chu Liyue saw it clearly and knew that there was no way for them to negotiate. He immediately reminded them in a low voice. That's the Wolf King. They became even more cautious. The books say that every wolf pack has its own Wolf King. If the Wolf King is killed, then the wolf pack will suffer a huge blow and be defeated. Liao Zhongshu's voice was as soft as a mosquito's. They immediately understood what he meant. To catch bandits, first catch the Wolf King. They had no chance of winning against so many red-winged wolves. Their only hope was to kill the Wolf King as soon as possible. Only then would they have a chance of survival while the wolf pack was in chaos. Leave the Wolf King to me. You guys wait for the right time to strike. Gu Mingfeng suddenly said. Chu Liyue looked back at him in surprise. He saw that the feminine face was expressionless. Only his clenched jaw showed that he was not as relaxed as he looked. In fact, Gu Mingfeng made this choice because he knew that the situation today was very dangerous. If they were not careful, they would all die here. He was the highest level among them. Naturally, he had to be at the forefront. Mu Hongyu and the others looked at each other. Everyone knew that this was the most dangerous situation. However, if something happened to Gu Mingfeng, the red-winged wolf's most powerful weapon is its sharp claws and teeth. Even if you don't die, you'll be crippled. Remember, don't fight it head-on. I'll support you, Chu Liyue said in a low voice. He then instructed the others to do their best to stop the other red-winged wolves. As long as they had enough time, they might win. Mu Hongyu bit her lip. Yes, the situation is dangerous. The two of you must be careful. You too. After Chu Liyue said that, he silently held the dagger in his other hand. The next moment, the Wolf King suddenly moved. It was extremely fast. It drew a snow-white trail in the air and appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Gu Mingfeng tapped his toes and flew forward. He raised his sword and slashed at the Wolf King. Almost at the same time, Chu Liyue followed closely behind. In an instant, the two of them and the Wolf King were in a tripartite confrontation. On the other side, the wolf pack charged at them from all directions. Mu Hongyu and the other two had their backs against each other, forming a small protective circle. They began to fight with the wolf pack. Gu Mingfeng's sword was about to strike, but the Wolf King was faster. With a leap, it jumped onto a tree trunk at the side. It lowered its body and exerted force with its hind legs. Its entire body flew out rapidly. It charged in front of Gu Mingfeng in an instant. Gu Mingfeng was shocked. He immediately raised his sword to block in front of his chest. Whoosh! The sharp claws rubbed against the sword body, making an ear-piercing sound. Gu Mingfeng only felt his body being attacked by a heavy force. His body retreated a few steps uncontrollably. When he finally steadied himself, he quickly looked down and saw that there were already a few clear scratches on the sword body. It was left behind by the Wolf King just now. His claws were actually so sharp. They were even more dangerous than swords. Gu Mingfeng's expression darkened. This Wolf King's strength was clearly about to break through to rank 4. He was definitely not a match for it just by relying on himself. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, he felt a gust of cold wind coming toward him. It was the Wolf King in hot pursuit and attacking again. He channeled his force and poured it into his sword. However, the Wolf King had already pounced on him at this time. Gu Mingfeng could not block it and directly crashed onto the ground. He wanted to get up and escape, but he could not move at all. He could only be slaughtered by the Wolf King. The Wolf King opened its bloody mouth. Its sharp teeth shone with a cold light as it bit at Gu Mingfeng's neck. A fishy smell hit him in the face. Gu Mingfeng could even feel its teeth pressing against his skin. Gu Mingfeng's blood seemed to have frozen at this moment. However, just as he thought that he was going to die, a biting cold aura suddenly attacked. Behind the Wolf King was Chu Liuyue's sword. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.